Hello, everybody. Good afternoon. Welcome back to Scoutcast Matchday, the first one for the 2020-21 season, of course. If you've not watched one of these before, basically, we comment on one of the games from an FPL point of view. Sometimes there's multiple games on at the time. Obviously, with everything going on right now, it's just one game at a time. So we thought we would pick the opening game of the season, and a pretty significant one for a couple of reasons, which we'll come on to in a minute. One of which is a lot of Aubameyang captains, but also some team sheet news as well, which we'll talk about in a sec. And today I'm joined by Chris and Seb. Chris, how are you doing today?
Yeah, I'm doing great, Andy. Really excited about the season starting. I'm excited I can stop changing my team every 3 seconds, as I have been doing for the last week. So I don't know if I'm entirely happy where it stopped, but I can at least stop changing for the moment.
Yeah, I think it's almost like a bit of a relief for me once Game Week 1's done, because we can see what the carnage is and then just try and start fixing it in Game Week 2. How about you, Seb? How are you feeling now it's finally complete almost at this point?
Yeah, I'm all right, thanks, mate. I probably this little lull before the storm here, before the Leeds match later. Spent most of the morning panicked in the gym trying to change my team 1,000 times and see what I end up with. And now it's kind of done, isn't it? You just sat there waiting to see how you got it wrong, and then there's Leeds later, which will wind me right back up again.
Yeah, I should say Seb is. We'll get some talking points for the teams you support in a minute. So Seb is a Leeds fan, and Chris is an Everton fan as well. So we'll probably talk about them a bit because it's quite exciting for both. Leeds obviously newly promoted, been a while since they were in the Premier League, and Everton a bunch of new signings as well. So we'll talk about that in a sec. I'm just going to go through the team sheets. So Chris and Seb will be watching the game, so we'll find out what's going on as the game continues. Obviously, it's just about to kick off, so we'll find out if there's any early goals in a sec. But let's just quickly go through the lineup. So Arsenal, I mean, some surprising to some, probably not to others, that Nketiah and Saka both benched. I think, I don't think that's completely surprising. If it wasn't this week, it probably would have been next week anyway. And continues with Aubameyang wide, and then Lacazette or Nketiah through the middle. And this week is Lacazette, and Willian gets a start as well. I guess it's not surprising that he was bought and goes straight into the team either. And Salah, 4.5. Did any of you go for Salah at 4.5?
I did not.
Yeah, too risky basically, and he's not even in the squad. Not even just not in the first 11. He's not even in the squad. Neither's Martinez as well. So it does look likely that at some point in this transfer window, Martinez is going to be sold, but we'll have to wait and see on that. I think it's a back four, I think. So Bellerin, Tierney, the fullbacks, Gabriel making his debut with Holding, El Neni, Xhaka, and Maitland-Niles is in there as well. So I don't know if that's a 4-3-3.
They've shown it as a back five on.
Oh, is it back five? Yeah.
They've got Bellerin on the right, Maitland-Niles on the left, and then Holding, Gabriel, and Tierney. Across the three.
Yeah, I kind of miss Maitland-Niles there. So I guess he's playing left wing back, and Tierney's probably playing left centre back. Okay, fair enough. So I have to see. A few people punted on Tierney. I guess in the future he'll be the left wing back, left back instead of playing left centre back. But for now,
I think he scored from that centre back position, didn't he? Actually, anyway. So
well, I guess one of them can still go forward. A bit like Sheffield United. Get your centre backs bombing forward. Why not? Let's talk about probably the more interesting one today. Fulham. Chris, what did you make of Mitrovic being benched?
Up on the Fulham fitness and injury news, but you would have thought he's got to come on. Surely he's going to be the someone's going to cause Arsenal problems. He's kind of hard to mark, hard to stop being a threat at set pieces. So it's an odd decision. I don't know. Maybe there's some fitness issues. I've not really been following them pre-season, so I don't know if there's a kind of a few crumbs of a story that led up to that. But I'm quite surprised.
He didn't play the championship playoff final. Kamara started up front in that as well. So I wonder if it's one of those. He'll, against people like Arsenal, City, Liverpool, maybe go for someone who isn't just in the team, I guess, for goals, and then maybe again.
But he did play in pre-season for Serbia. I think he played 180 minutes. So he can't be that unfit unless something's happened in the last couple of days. Maybe it is just a tactical switch, but I think when he was fit last year, he started every single game in the Championship, if I'm not wrong. So it's very surprising. I'll tell you what the biggest frustration would be for me if I owned him, and we'll come on to our teams in a second. That there is, what is he, like 30% owned or something like that? I'm going to pull it up now. There's got to be a big potential for a price drop in Game Week 2. Unless he comes on and scores, which I'm assuming if he is fit, he's going to come on at some point. But he's 25% owned, so it's got to be, it could be down to 5.9 million, and that really would hurt you because, in the less than 6 million bracket, you're looking at Bamford at 5.5, Fabio Silva's 5.5, he's not going to play. So that could hurt, but I guess we'll have to wait and see if he comes on. Like if he comes on and scores, probably looking okay. So that's the big news. Rodak in goal, which I think we knew. Their new sign is probably going to have to, earn his place later on. So yeah, interesting lineups. If you've got Mitrovic, it sucks really.
Ooh.
Oh, did he go?
Arsenal nearly messed up there. There was a back pass to Leno, I think, who's completely missed it, and Fulham were nearly in, just about saved themselves.
Imagine. To be fair, a lot of people have gone for Arsenal defence. I don't know what do you make of them. Go on, sorry, Chris.
I don't know. I had Tierney for a while. I don't think, judging from, I don't get it. Judging from last season, I mean, I think he's tightened it up a lot, but I don't know. I wouldn't be. I had Leno in a couple of games. I don't know if it was in I said him in the original fantasy league we were playing, and he never ceased to disappoint. I don't know. I wouldn't have gone in really with Arsenal defence. I'd wait and see how they go the first couple of games and then see. But you had Tierney early on, and then I kind of pulled him out. I don't see it myself.
I'm kind of the same. Like their number, I've been using numbers quite a lot more, like stats and stuff from the members area, and Arsenal over the season not very good. But fair enough, Arteta came in, but then they still weren't very good. Now one of the problems is that they've obviously got a couple of new defenders, and Tierney hasn't been fit for very long in that team as well. So there's a lot of potential there, but until they have a steady back line. Like Maitland-Niles left wing back, Bellerin right wing back, and Tierney playing as a centre back. I appreciate it's a back five, so it's not quite the same. But I just think until they have a steady kind of back five or back four, I'm assuming it's going to be back four long term. That's when I'd want to see them. And I just think, I think a lot's being relied on Fulham and West Ham getting points there. And after that, it's kind of, I don't know, it's just awful fixtures. What do you think, Seb? Is there any merit in going there?
I think looking at the numbers when Arteta took over, the XGC, so the expected goals conceded or against, weren't actually that different from when Emery was in charge. The results obviously were. They improved their actual output, which obviously is what's important in fantasy. But going forwards, you've kind of got to use the underlying stats as a predictive model. And they weren't actually that much better than under Emery. Maybe what you're banking on is an Arteta having that upward trajectory. But they're clearly capable of conceding goals. I think if you had to pick an Arsenal defender, you either go super cheap, say Gabriel there or Saliba today nails that spot, or you go for attacking returns. Right? They're not a side, like your Pulis sides of old, or even Liverpool now outside of the two fullbacks, that you go, I'm purely here for 15 clean sheets. You're always going to be nervous watching them. I think you need another reason to pick one.
How are they looking right now? Because I see, I think it's Tahir in the chat saying Arsenal looking a bit nervous. Do you think that's
they look a bit shaky. They look a bit shaky. I think it's a bit tense on both sides, but they don't look composed at the back so far. I must say that.
That back pass was Maitland-Niles played it back towards the box, potentially for Leno, but it was under hit. Gabriel sort of went for it, then left it, and obviously there's that classic confusion. I think it was Kamara comes through and Leno just about got to it. So maybe with a couple of new players in there, they're not used to spending time with each other, so maybe they strengthen up as they go. But I'd be a little concerned about that. Although Fulham look a bit like they did in the Championship. They keep a lot of ball in that, just outside that final third, and maybe wait for those mistakes. If no more mistakes come, I don't know where they necessarily create the chance from.
That's exactly what Mark said on Breakfast Club about Mitrovic, why he didn't want him. He said they don't create enough chances, you're waiting for mistakes. He did say, funnily enough, to be fair, if anyone's going to make a mistake, it's Arsenal, and it sounds like they already did, but obviously Mitrovic is not on the pitch, so it doesn't really matter there. Let's just, obviously, if there's any action, feel free to kind of just jump in.
Yeah, we're keeping an eye on it. I mean, it's, as just Seb just nailed it, and Mark as well. It's mainly Fulham passing around the midfield, really, and just keep, when they get the ball, they stay in possession for a minute or two, and then it tends to drip away at the moment. So yeah, we're not yet teed up for Goldfest, but let's hope we get a few bit more action shortly.
Have you both... say the Fulham centre backs are seeing a fair bit of the ball, especially Hector, I think it is. So potentially, if you think there's going to be clean sheets to come from them, the BPS from passes completed might be there.
Yeah, I think a bit like Arsenal, I think I'd have to see a little bit more from Fulham before I went for them for clean sheets. But you never know down the road. It's a bit of a weird one. I've talked about the pricing before. Actually, Dara came on and talked about Fulham, and the pricing for defenders is a bit weird. Like Brian at 5 million, none of the Leeds players were more than 4.5. So it'd take a lot, I think, to go to Fulham. But you never know, I guess. Have you both got Aubameyang captain, by the way, in this?
Yeah.
Oh yes.
Yeah. Okay. So we're all waiting for goals. I went for him in the end as well.
Hang on. Sorry, I had the Bowman captain. I Salah captained. Apologise.
Oh yeah, I've got your team
I
up
got
here,
suckered
yeah.
into the Salah captaincy. This is all happened. My team is. I was a Aubameyang all the way until this morning, and it's just. I've just watched too much. I've watched way too much footage this morning of different opinions. My
Well,
team
Seb, come on, let's get your opinion, Seb. You're the Leeds fan. Salah at home is pretty much a banker versus most teams. How do you think that game's going to go?
So I think we'll lose. The champions versus a newly promoted team. Realistically, I think we'll lose. But I think a really nice comparison and an easy one to make is Norwich last season, where Liverpool won 4-1, I think. But potentially Norwich looked better than a 4-1. Oh, shot there, saved by Lerner. Not a particularly strong shot. Leeds, so Norwich last year probably didn't deserve to lose 4-1. They put in a good performance. I'd fancy us doing a similar thing today. Hopefully, don't concede 4. I'd say 3-1 Liverpool if we had to. But I think what we'll get out of it is however many people watch the Premier League, the rest of the Premier League, seeing what we're about. We're not going to, while we do have a good counter-attack set up, we're not going to sit back and absorb it. We are going to try and go toe-to-toe with them, which certainly means we can concede goals. But we saw, Arsenal pretty much compete with Liverpool in the Community Shield last weekend. And while I don't think we'll win, I think we'll give a good go of it. I could see us scoring, and I could see us basically raising interest in our assets going forward when the fixtures improve.
What do you make of just sticking on Salah a second? Like we talked about it this morning on Breakfast Club about how some people think he's been looking out of form. Most of that's come in pre-season and Community Shield. Do you kind of
Willian has not scored. Lacazette has though. It might be offside.
Oh,
it's bobbled around in the area.
One of those. Where's
Aubameyang? He put it into the box. He got a touch in the penalty area. He was wide left. He put it into the box. It comes across. Didn't see who touched it from the midfield, but came through to Willian, who miskicked it. Classic through to Lacazette, who tapped it in. Potentially, though, Lacazette or Willian are going to be offside.
Hang on. So if this goes in or gets counted, is that a Willian assist, you think?
I think it might be.
Oh my days!
I'm now watching it slowly. I'm about a minute, despite thanks.
Oh, I tell you what, Seb, you beat the chat, so that's impressive. Only just now, Lacazette. They're saying Lacazette goal.
Well, I think that'll be Willian. Yeah.
If that's onside, that's a Willian assist. But it's one of those. What was it? He's had a shot against the goalkeeper. To be fair, it hits him in the back of the heels. It's one of those. Who was it a couple of seasons ago? Got the slightest touch on a header.
Oh, was it like Macaulay or?
That was the one. The ghost assist. Yeah.
There was a lot
of those.
Talk about that one.
Is it stood?
I think they've given that. Yeah.
There we go. Goal. First goal of the season. Fantastic.
We all picked the wrong Arsenal striker.
Oh my days! Don't say that. Well, hopefully this will open. Well, if they weren't already going to be open, it might open them up even more. But I was just thinking that's typical William because last year. The end of last season, when he's getting all those assists and goals from like free kicks and penalties, and then even one of the assists he got was because I can't remember who it was, but someone's hamstring went, and I think it was Gary Cahill actually against Crystal Palace. I think his hamstring went, and he got an easy assist. And if he's getting assists just by kicking off his back heel, that's just classic William.
Yeah, he's in and amongst it. He's right in the centre there, and that's a great. Well, it's not great anything, but it's a goal. Tenacity from William, I think. Tenacity from William there. Yeah, it looks like it's all good. There you go. Fantastic.
Fair enough.
First goal of the season. We're off and running.
Yeah, he's a decent price at 8.0 as well. I guess it's a good price point to use that phrase. Although the reason I kind of didn't consider him is you'd have to assume he's lost penalties and at least some set pieces, which kind of felt like I think at the end of last season with Chelsea, most of his points were coming through that domination of set pieces.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, penalties definitely going to still be. Aubameyang. I can't even think off the top of my head who really takes set pieces for Arsenal. So you might get a few of them. I guess Ceballos maybe when he's on, but he's not even on the pitch at the moment. So potentially you might get some. But yeah, penalties was such a big kicker for him that that's probably going to hurt him. Plus, of course, there's no guarantee that Saka just stays on the bench either. There could be a bit of rotation there because Saka has seemed at times like a bit of a favourite of Arteta. All right, we'll see what happens with Aubameyang. Let's be honest, he's the one that everyone is waiting for. And I guess some people waiting for a clean sheet. One of my mates has got a double Arsenal defence. And I asked him why. And he said because they're playing Fulham. So there you go. As simple as that. They're playing Fulham. Double clean sheet. We'll see if it comes in. Hopefully not.
Yeah, well, brave. I mean, we'll see. They didn't start that way. I wouldn't have been that confident right at the start. But yeah, we'll see how Fulham do now, I guess.
Yeah,
but just for Arsenal, you were saying about free kicks. According to the scout set pieces, you've got from free kicks you got Pepe, Luiz, Lacazette, and Aubameyang, and corners, Pepe, Saka, of Ozil. Not going to use as much. And yeah, I mean, it does seem to be spread about a bit. So,
Yeah, I think William might get some of them because some of them don't play, especially indirect free kicks as well. If it's more like of a cross, and Pepe, Pepe's in the same space as Saka and William, so it's going to be one of those three on the pitch most weeks.
You could see him getting a lot of. I mean, yeah, that's an interesting one. I never had him in my lineup. He was a player for consideration. He was had him at the end of last season. When I think I went the wrong way in the William Pulisic bet, although he did pretty well for the last few games. So, but yeah, and maybe he'll come into the thinking. Might score a few more goals first, but
I think that's one of those things, though, isn't it? You know, the first goal of a new season, especially a player that not that many people are own, you kind of need to go, okay, cool. An assist for William, goal for Lacazette. It's like, but do I think that's going to repeat for the next 5, 6, 7 weeks? It's very easy to react immediately. You know, we've had all this, I say summer, couple of weeks thinking about our fantasy teams, and then there's one match on. You put so much on it. I mean, hey, you know, we're streaming and talking about it, but realistically, you need to look back in 5 weeks and go, well, did I make the correct decisions over that period of time?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
That's the voice of reason. That's not the voice of knee-jerk match.
He says as I'm wildcarding. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think Willian is going to suddenly be an option. I think like there's certain teams where, like Chelsea, for example, I'm quite excited by once we know who's kind of we start a week in, week out. Teams like Arsenal, outside of Aubameyang, I would just need to see so much more from them. Who's nailed on and just how they play against, you know, a stronger team, not necessarily the top 6, but Fulham are probably going to be one of the weaker teams this year. So yeah, don't worry, I'm not bringing or not planning on bringing Willian in anytime soon. Let's just go back to your team section. We're talking about Salah. What you've obviously got Seb. This is now you've got Salah in your team, but you've captain Aubameyang. What do you make of all this this form talk, out of form? Like, what are you expecting from him early doors?
I mean, I guess there's quite a lot of noise around it, but his stats are outrageous. Although we know that even his season when he was scoring 30 goals in the league, his stats suggested he could have scored even more. I think he is probably, to put it in a football manager sense, he's probably got 18 composure, but 14 finishing, or the other way around. He'll always be in that position, but you see him the amount of times he goes to just place it in that far corner, and he'll put it straight in the goalkeeper's arms, or just wide. So I think he's always going to come out better on stats than, say, someone like Marnie, who in theory is a better finisher. But I do make a lot of my decisions based on stats, and I'm not saying he's underperforming them to the point where he won't score points. He will score a lot of points, probably first, second, third in the midfield category, we reckon. Depends how Aubameyang does now he's a midfielder. The reason I haven't captained him really is I have Trent, Robertson, and Salah. If, say, Leeds do pull something off, that's probably a big points hit to take. And purely based on this game here, and I know Aubameyang's away from home, but it's London and there are no fans here, so it's not quite away from home for me. I basically figured, what's the best possible outcome I can get out of this? A Liverpool clean sheet, Trent assist, Salah goal, and Aubameyang scores 2. Like Captain Aubameyang, I reckon I get the most points out of those 4 players doing it that way.
Fair enough, job done. Yeah, I think the one thing with Salah I think could happen, and again we talked about this morning a bit, is if he gets a double-digit haul at 10 points plus, I think that will just stop people selling him. I don't necessarily think people are going to rush to jump on him when they got Chelsea next, but if he does blank, a bit like Mitrovic maybe missing out today, I do wonder how quickly we'll see the first price drop from him, because the problem is so many of the premiums are expensive, and we know that Man United, for example, have got good fixtures coming up next. Like, is that in your thinking at all? Are you thinking of going for Man United?
Just to say that Bellerin just flashed one across the face, and it's gone away. Tierney's up there, almost a left wing back position right now, overlapping Maitland-Niles. Fulham have cleared it. Williams right in the box again, though. So I think
he's growing on you. William is growing on you.
Yeah, by the end of this,
for half time, he'll be a shoe-in. He'll be a shoe-in.
Think what I can do with that 4 million. That's a whole nother defender. I think a lot of we said we were messing around with our teams this morning. The thing it came down to for me, other than captaincy, and thought between the two of them, went without. I was happy with Aubameyang. And if it doesn't come off, it's one of those. I made the decision based on reasonable information. If it doesn't pay off, that's fine. You shouldn't make your decision based purely on the outcome. Otherwise, you'll never get any points because you're chasing hindsight. But for Man United, the actual reason I set up my team, I've got Vardy and Saint-Maximin over what I originally had, which was Havertz and Wilson. I actually think Havertz and Wilson is the better combination, given the rest of my team. But went with Vardy and Saint-Maximin, mostly because it gives me that ability to go to Martial very easily, either next week or the week after. Or if Vardy does well, he has good fixtures. I don't really. Rashford potentially not quite fit. We'll see how he goes. Bruno Fernandes is expensive. Yeah, he'll get loads of points. I'd rather have De Bruyne. I'd rather have Salah for now at least. So I think if I was getting a Man United player, it would be Martial. Vardy gave me that easy move. I'll be holding on to Timo Werner, who's my other striker. And if for whatever reason I don't want a Man United player, which I think is where I rested up, I hadn't made my mind up. I just keep Vardy, and he has a great game too.
Yeah, I've got your team up on screen now. I got to be honest, I think that's one of my favourite teams I've seen. I guess the little bit of a potential issue is the bench with Mitchell and Ferguson long term. Obviously, a lot of people hoping that Ferguson comes in, but having Aubameyang, Salah, and Vardy and Werner is pretty nice because it gives you a lot of flexibility. What do you think about Burke? Do you think he's going to be a regular starter for Sheffield United, or is that kind of a bit of a punt just in case?
I've always gone very, very cheap on the bench at the beginning of the season. It's in theory the time you have the least amount of money available. So I want to get it in my team, and then if I build up value, I'll get someone somewhere else. I wanted a 4.5 midfielder. I've got some decent midfielders elsewhere. I think out of all of them, other than going for your classic Dale Stephens, who just gets 2 points every week, if he plays, I think he might play as a 9, or at least come on in that position or come off the wing or whatever. There doesn't really seem to be another position for him in that team. So I think you're talking about late risers upside Jason before. If out of all those 4.5 midfielders, if one of them is going to score me points, I think Burke will be the one. Otherwise, it's 2 points for everyone and 0 points for Burke.
Yeah, no, it's interesting way of looking at it. I went for Basuma in the end. There's maybe slightly more goal threat than Dale Stephens. Not that I'm expecting more than 1 or 2 points, but yeah. But if he starts game week 1, he will be one of the bigger bandwagons for sure, because having a starting forward who's listed as a midfielder 4.5 is just absolutely insane. But yeah, team looking great. Obviously, Justin maybe a bit of a shorter term pick as well, but potentially, the thing is, we're talking about when Ricardo's back, he'll be out. And obviously Ricardo will be back at some point, but we don't really know yet. They're saying he's out till October. When in October? Even game week 4 is October 3rd, so potentially you could get 4 or 5 weeks out of Justin. What do you think? What do you think his chances of doing well are? Because obviously Evans misses the first 3 games. Or do you think he's just too good value to turn down?
I quite wanted him to sign for Leeds over the summer. I guess maybe before the injury. Obviously now he's more in Leicester's team, but he's comfortable at left back. He's played there a fair bit, so even if he's not in the team at right back, maybe he comes to left back. And really, it's a 4.5 defender that I think I might end up losing in 2 or 3 weeks. Luke Ayling is calling my name, and there's a few of them. Maybe we learn that Wolves have a nailed-on defence, and there's a 4.5 option there. Obviously, the left wing back role is the one we're all looking at. The first 2 fixtures, I think he plays, and I think Leicester have. I've got Vardy as well, haven't I? I know their form at the end of last season wasn't great, but only so far you can go with that. And they've got Ndidi back, I believe, as well, right?
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah,
basically seems to be the difference between a clean sheet and a not. So out of all those 4.5 options, he's the one I fancied for the first 2 weeks. If I know people say you shouldn't plan transfers, but then normally we don't have 2 teams missing the first couple of weeks. So if in theory I can make 1 transfer a week, it's probably Martial, De Bruyne, then sort out the 4.5. And if something comes up and I can't make those transfers, I think the team can cope. Vardy can stay and I don't have to bring in Martial.
Yeah, no, I think the team's looking good. I must say that's one of my favourite teams I've seen. Chris, how's the game going? Any chance of Aubameyang scoring anytime soon?
Fulham got forward and put a cross in. There's just no one there to pick it up though. That's where they need the Mitrovic. It's been pretty. Fulham is pushing the building slowly, same as they have been before. Yeah, they got a ball into the box, but there's no one there to pick it up. So it's after the flurry of a couple of chances, it's kind of calmed down a little bit. But yeah. Keeping a watchful eye. I'm probably about 2 minutes behind Seb by looks of things, so that's I'm cursed.
Aubameyang has scored a brace.
Yeah, Aubameyang's got a hat-trick.
Yeah.
Hopefully, fingers crossed. Still, I mean, it's only 22 minutes in, so yeah, there's still plenty of time.
Oh, this is better than the 0-0. We were all going, this is going to be the.
Lacazette's in the box. Oh, was that Willian? Oh no, it's El Nene, and he hit it straight into a defender, as you would expect.
Nightmare. Where's Aubameyang? Willian in the box, Lacazette in the box. Where is he?
He's pretty wide. Although, we're speaking about stats earlier in Salah, isn't Aubameyang kind of the opposite? You spend the whole game going, why is he wide? Why is he wide? Why is he not shooting? And then he puts 2 in the top corner.
Pretty much, yeah. I saw someone in the chat, apologies, I can't remember who it was now, I've lost it, but saying that Aubameyang wide is no good. But he scored 22 goals last season, and most of that was from, and I think calling it a wide position is probably a little bit incorrect. He's not like he's hugging the touchline, he comes in quite a lot. So Yeah, I wouldn't. I mean, if you're panicking after 22 minutes, it's going to be a long season. Like there's the 22 minutes of the first game. Let's give him a little bit of a chance. I think
He's 12 million. He's got 2 nice fixtures. You can do anything you want if you don't like him in 14 days time.
Yeah, let's be honest. We're all going to De Bruyne or Sterling pretty much.
I mean, Willian is looking good. I must admit. I mean, Willian.
Stop it.
Sorry, but yeah. All right, moving on.
William for a double game week. I fancy him for a double game week. So a few set pieces, couple of goals.
Yeah, it could be an option. Let's at one point maybe. Let's take a look at Chris's team next. So Everton fan Chris.
Don't look at my bench. Don't look at my bench. It's a disaster. But yeah, go on.
Oh, two. So yeah. So you've gone for. I gotta be honest. I didn't think 4-3-3 is that bad because straight away people look at the midfielders. But ultimately, if you went 4-4-2, I don't think many people would mind. So at least with 4.5 million midfielders, they're going to play, and you've got Charlie Taylor for future weeks. So I don't think it's the worst thing in the world. And you still get.
No, it was only Stevens really. I basically what happened was I was messing around with midfield with Pulisic at one point and a few others, and then suddenly I was struck by inspiration that's to get Son. I don't know why. I was suddenly panicking that I hadn't got any Spurs coverage. I had Doherty in earlier, and then I went to Digne. So I thought I've got to get Spurs in, and so I managed to find a way to get Son in, and I put kind of Stevens in as a holding player, and I went back to it. But in between doing this team, doing my son's team, and trying to make 2 entries into fan team, which I thought is just a no. We talk about later as a no-brainer to play. I just left them in there and sort of like forgot about it. This is not as bad as when I made a bench boost team at the restart and forgot to press the bench boost button, which was
that was bad.
My wife still talks about how many F-bombs I dropped in the park because I just discovered it in the park out for a walk with my family. I was going, oh great, Villa Sheffield United 0. This is perfect. And I looked down. Why am I getting no points off the bench? It's like, no.
Yeah, that would kill me. I think
it did. It was. I was inconsolable for about an hour, and then I had to take my wife out to dinner and apologise.
I see Matt in the chat has noticed the thumbnail. Absolutely, it took me about 2 seconds to find that picture of Mitrovic. Couldn't have been any more perfect, to be honest. I should say get some questions on in the chat as well because we will. I will try and keep an eye on that, and we'll answer some as we go when there's kind of break in play. Like if there's only if it's 1-0 and there's not too much action going on. Just going back to your team a second. So I toyed with 4 at the back, and there's a part of me that thinks you can't go too cheap when you're going 4 at the back. But I actually think there are good enough defenders potentially to make it work. Like you've got Vinagre. He's obviously one of the most talked about players pre-season. What do you think? Are you confident, or are you a little bit worried
of him playing?
Yeah.
I'm 50-50 confident if that's a thing. Yeah, I don't know. It was an enabler. I think someone will come off the bench if it doesn't. I had a different time Sice in there and Cody, and I was convinced actually by Az on the Black Box, I think, or Az and Mark talking about it, that they seemed to convince me to come back into it. I've literally watched everyone's channel for the last 2 days. Because I do look at the stats, but I'm not an elite player. Certainly put that, and so I like to take the advice from other players. I watched all 11 of all 12, I think there are now of the reveals, team reveals on Scout as well.
Yeah,
I don't know if I agree. I mean, I think so many people have got him as well. That mitigates it. My Digne Doherty was the big sort of back and forth decision for me. I really bought him more for the future. I actually think the way that Ancelotti, the talent he's brought into midfield, and generally the way he plays, I think we could be pretty tight. Who knows? Against Spurs, probably not. We're terrible in the capital, but going forward, I think we could be pretty tight actually. And Digne's obviously got the free kick options as well in the corners and everything, and so I kind of think I'm pretty happy about that actually.
I'm just quickly seeing in the chat as a free kick. Is that right, Seb?
Yep, just setting up outside.
Who's taking it?
For Arsenal. Not sure yet. Maybe the chat are ahead of me. Willian's got the ball at his feet. By Willian.
Wait, is it a good position? Because I mean,
it is central. Yeah. I've seen the foul.
He's a good set piece taker. Like he really is.
Right on the edge of the penalty box, central.
Well, actually, that's not bad for a right footer. You'd almost just want it the same the other side, and it would be possibly ideal. But yeah, probably just right of the as you face the goal, the D outside the area. So what, 20, 25 yards, 22?
Who did you say won it?
Lacazette was.
They're not going to combine.
Yeah.
Oh my god!
Yeah,
Has he scored? I don't know. Someone
Yeah,
said
he hasn't taken it yet. Here for me.
Okay. Are you watching in real time?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Someone's just.
It's definitely Willian though. There's no one else around him.
Okay. I mean, I think that makes sense though. I mean, he is a very good set piece taker. He's not going to get penalties, but free kick.
If he does score, I know where this is going because there's a massive gap to the left of the goalkeeper. Just put it straight in that gap. I think he hit the post. He went low. He went low across to the goalkeeper's right, and I think he's either hit the post or it's a great save. I think he might hit the post.
Wow,
good, Willian. I think I mentioned.
I never get I'd love to actually. There's probably loads of interviews on YouTube, but see a keeper explain why they leave so much space sometimes. I get the idea that you're then forcing the attacker over the wall, and then you've got the other side covered. But so many players are so good at getting up and over the wall.
He's hit the post. Just seeing the replay there, he has hit the post.
Wow. Okay, be interesting to see what how the community react to him as a bandwagon. I mean, if he does get a goal,
that would have been saved though. It's weird. Yeah, he's gone completely across the keeper. What was the point? It was a very odd free kick in a way because he, as you say, had a lot of space. And he went.
Well, maybe that's what you were saying. Why do goalkeepers do that? I guess it's playing the percentages, right? If you were another one of those, when you see a ball put straight into that empty spot, you're like, oh, why didn't he cover it? But you presume the clubs run the data, the goalkeeper coaches work with them, and if you cover that side with the wall and cover the other side with the goalkeeper, 9 times out of 10, how many free kicks are actually scored? 9 times out of 10, you put it in a comfortable position for the goalkeeper. And then when you don't, maybe it's one of those, well, the goalkeeper wouldn't have got there anyway, so you're just playing the percentages.
Yeah, fair point.
It's not a terrible free kick. It's just not. It's a slightly odd one. But yeah, no, it hit the post, so fair enough. It wasn't terrible.
They don't make him like.
It goes a lot of there's action. There's action for the first match. That's what we like to see.
Not from who we want though, but again, it's only
Lacazette, Willian. I don't know how many people have that.
In fact, let me quickly check their ownerships now. I mean, I know they're going to be lowly owned. I would say Lacazette in particular is probably around the 2%, 3.5 for Lacazette, and Willian is 8.3. So he's actually quite highly owned. I guess
that is a big ownership.
Yeah, I guess people have, because obviously some people just pick their teams based on last year's scores, but also to be fair, 2 good fixtures to open up for Arsenal. So maybe the punt was worth it. We'll see if he can get his goal.
I guess in the fantasy football scout community, the Havertz, Pulisic, or some sort of Chelsea midfielder has been all the talk, and maybe Son a bit more expensive. I honestly hadn't considered Willian that much because I ended up with none of them. But I would have got Havertz if I'd gone that way. Yeah, I guess it's one of those where you talk yourselves into a smaller group of players, don't you?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. I definitely. That's one thing I suffer from is tunnel vision when it comes to players. Have a group in mind, and I just can't think of anyone else. So yeah, William was never inside my thinking at all. Let's just quickly come back to your team, Chris. What made you go Digne over Doherty in the end?
Yeah, as I say, I'm an Evertonian, so I kind of feel I always have to give him a bit of love. And I just think we bought so well over the summer in the midfield. Obviously, it's got to sort itself out, but with Alan and Decore in there, I think we're going to be a lot tighter than we have been. And we're already, I know Pickford's not everyone's favourite England number 1, but he can be a bit shaky. But no, but Digne's, he will get assists. He will get there. He does all right in the bonus. And I think we're going to be a lot tighter this season. Against Spurs, I don't know. It's complete wildcard. I don't think it happened. Depends whose head's in the right space when they start. But yeah, I think. I don't know. I think I could go that. Doherty, yeah, I don't know. I think he's going to a new club. Let's see how he settles in. He'll probably make me massively regret it and score like 3 or something on some towering headers. But yeah, I'm got to give some Everton love. I've been got to have some loyalty to the club. I'm not quite Crabtree. I'm not no Liverpool.
Ball flashed across the face of Arsenal's 6-yard box. Came to nothing, but dangerous. They've gotten a lot down those sides.
Which side are they targeting, or is it just a mixture of both?
Say again.
Which side are they targeting? Like left, like basically they targeting Willian's side or Aubameyang's or
most of the build-up has been on the left, but that one came from the right, from Fulham's perspective. So Arsenal's left. But most of their build-up has been down the left, I would say.
It's the only way they can go, really, because it's very crowded in the centre, and without a target man, that's really their only option. Because they build up play around halfway into the half, and then they're just looking for somewhere to go with it, and it's got to be down the flanks. But yeah,
I'm not going to lie. There's something there for Mitrovic. If they keep putting those across, the one thing they've lacked is that person who's just going to bomb onto the end of it.
It'll come on second half if it's like this, definitely.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
It has to be. I mean, maybe not, but it feels like it has to be a fitness issue. First game of the season, you bench your kind of, your main striker. It just
talisman,
yeah. It doesn't feel like it. It makes sense.
He's not going to run around and tackle back, is he? I guess that's the thinking. So
no, but then is Parker really thinking he can get a result against Arsenal? Like I don't know. Look, we'll find out after the game, maybe, or maybe at half time or something. But yeah, it's a weird choice. I'll come back to Digne and Doherty in a minute because I've got my own opinion about that. But someone just said Matt, I think it is, in the chat said, as an Everton fan, so obviously this is for Chris. How do you think James Rodriguez will do this season? Do you think he can be the man?
It's a good question. I mean, I don't know. We've bought so many, expensive players in recent years that have been had promise in the past or whatever. I've never, I mean, he's a genuine class player. If his mentality's right, and if he gets fit, and those are two big ifs, then he could be incredible. There's a lot of excitement in the fan groups about him. And I think actually I'm probably more excited about Alan and Decore first. I think those, in terms of just tightening up the midfield.
Lacazette is no, he's not in. It's gone out for a goal kick. He was slipped down the side.
But I think I don't know. I think he could be. I don't even think he'll start the first match or anything. I don't know when he's going to start playing. But maybe he will come in. I don't know. But he's. Yeah, I think for what we paid for him, what it seems we paid for him, it seems like an incredible bit of business. And yeah, if he's always played well under Ancelotti, that's what he wants to play for. That's why we've got him. It's not. I don't. Much as I'd love to think he's been a long-term fan of the Blues, I imagine it was more down to Ancelotti.
Up the toffees, I saw the video.
The toffees, yeah, exactly. No, but he's. I mean, it's pretty exciting three though. I mean, Decore, I'm actually Alan. I've kind of researched about a bit, but he looks like the sort of player we've needed for a long time. But I've always rated Decore. We were interested in him a couple of years ago, a year ago, when we had Silver, and I was. We wanted him in. When they said they were going to sign those three, I went, yeah, right, obviously we are. That's right. Like all these other players we're going to sign.
Lacazette in again across to Willian.
Yes, I saw.
Just cut out.
What is this? Like Lacazette Willian, like double up.
He's getting in down the left channel as well. Exactly where you would. I was offside in the end, but I mean, the theory works. If they're only a foot offside, there's a hole there.
I mean, I don't know.
Aubameyang played it through. So
okay, so he's a little bit involved, maybe.
Just offside.
I've just seen a tweet, and I mean, I'm often sarcastic, so you can't really tell. But I've just seen a tweet that says Aubameyang really was a trap, wasn't he? So there we go. That's again what we were talking about earlier. 36 minutes in. Someone asked in the chat. John Spencer asked me how my trip to Tesco was this morning. It was very good. I do like, obviously when lockdown first happened, it was like. I don't know, everything was just a bit busier and less people in at a time. I started going at 7 a.m. on a Saturday just to beat the crowds. I just carried on doing it. I hate traffic and it does my head in. So I go and
get a free cup of tea or something. It's like an offer. It's like a bacon sandwich or something.
No, it's just the joy of getting in and out in 20 minutes.
I don't think I've ever been to shops that early. That's.
Yeah, but the problem was this weekend is I was up until 1 a.m. doing my FPL team, so it wasn't. And I've got to drive 20 minutes to get there, so. Yeah, it wasn't such a good idea this morning. But thanks very much for asking. It was a good trip. On James Rodriguez, I mean, he is the most exciting signing just because of what he can do. But I actually, I kind of agree. I think Decore is a great pickup. I think a lot of people have been surprised that no one's come in for him in the past. And obviously, I guess when Watford were in the Premier League, it's probably a little bit harder to go and poach one of their players. Yeah. I think he's a brilliant buy. And I got to be honest, I'm always very... honest about how much football outside of the Premier League I watch. So my only knowledge of Alan is from FIFA, and he's amazing in FIFA. He's always one of the first players I would buy in Ultimate Team because he's
very good in real life as well. To be fair,
yeah, he's at least in FIFA he's like a Kante, but from Serie A. So yeah, no, I'm quite excited.
Since we sold Guy, we've needed that.
Yeah, exactly.
We definitely hope he can be a key player. Sorry, I got dropped there.
I think in
everyone's going to miss that unless you explain it.
Alan Key, come on.
Nice. I think in theory that midfield is. I mean, it's better than the midfield I'm watching for Arsenal right now, and that's not a slight on Arsenal's midfield. It's one of those if you signed them on FIFA or Foot Manager, like you were saying, Alan, Decore, and James. It's a Champions League.
Yeah, it's amazing.
You could win a title with that side. You could win Serie A with that midfield. James. Everyone I know 2014 World Cup James, but since basically the only good football he's played has been under Ancelotti.
Yeah.
And that has been world-class football. If that team comes together, and like I said, it's a big if, if you replace your entire midfield, who knows how they interact with the rest of the team.
Yeah.
But if that comes off, that's an incredible midfield. And I think James, if he gets a few set pieces, which I don't know if you've seen much of that, Chris, but if he gets a few set pieces and gets that number 10 or at least the free 8 role, Aubameyang's in and had a shot on target, it's saved.
Oh, come on. I thought that was definitely the goal.
That it was that position that Lacazette's been in. I think it was. Oh, it's not Tierney. I think it might have been Xhaka who put it across. Aubameyang exactly in that position you'd want him, though. Just inside the vertical from the 6-yard box where Lacazette has been coming in. It's on his left foot. It's not a great shot.
What do you think of the captaincy? What's the captaincy stat? We got that some of the captaincy stats for
Yeah, we got them. I think we got them. I'll look them up now while we're chatting. I will come back to it in a sec.
I'm sure Aubameyang must be very high. So
I think him and Salah are both over 100% effective ownership. Obviously, we're not worried about top 10k because there's no such thing right now, but there will be from next week. But yeah, I think they're over 100%. I'll try and find that out in a second. But the Everton midfield. So Matt just said the reason is is because his only knowledge of James Rodriguez is that 2014 goal in the World Cup. Which, to be fair, I think a lot of people know him for that because it was.
That's exactly what he's going to be like.
He was very good for Bayern under I think it was under Ancelotti in the free 8 role. So rather than playing 10, he played in a 3, but as an 8 that was allowed to progress the ball, come forward, and kind of adopt that number 10 role, but without the lack of defensive solidity that maybe an Ozil would give you. I think if he clicks, he's 1.5 million undervalued.
Yeah.
And I do think there's a chance. Again, we're going to have to wait and see how they line up because if Sigurdsson's in the team, maybe he will keep penalties. But I think there must be a chance that James Rodriguez just gets all set pieces. Like Lucas Digne might still take some corners, some free kicks, but I don't know if he took him at Bayern or anything like that. But I feel like he's the kind of player that might come in because outside of Sigurdsson, could give penalties to Calvert-Lewin, Richarlison, but I don't think Richarlison's much of a good taker from what I recall from previous seasons when he's taken them. And whether or not Calvert-Lewin's going to get them, I don't know. But I think there's a chance that Rodriguez just ends up monopolising all set pieces. And like you say, 7.5 million could be an absolute bargain. It's a lot of what ifs, though, of course. But
I don't think you can have. You're not going to have James and Sigurdsson the same side, are you? I mean, that's
pretty sure Aubameyang's just been booked.
Oh, come on! First Mitrovic mention. Booked for what? What's he doing?
Just one of those classic yellows where someone takes the ball, passes it off, he goes in a bit late, leaves himself in there.
There's me saying earlier,
so
if Salah doesn't do anything, he'll get sold. I'll tell you now, if Aubameyang comes away for 1 point,
be out next week. Yeah.
Today could be a very bad day. Salah hat-trick against Leeds.
That's the one thing. Obviously, it's great from being able to watch everything, but it's the one thing I hate about all the games being so long after each other. You got to wait. If you've only got Aubameyang here, he gets a 1-pointer. You got to wait till 5:30 to see what Salah does. You got to wait until 8:15 on Monday to see what Chelsea do. So it's great from a viewing point of view, but from an FPL point of view, I'm just glad they're still all done in 3 days. That whole 4 or 5 days for a game week. God, that was an absolute killer. I've actually got a question
about the principle of not captaining people in the first game. There's a few people that
it's rubbish.
Nonsense.
I mean, I would say it seems rubbish, but it's always fallen on its arse for me. And when I've captained the first game, I can't remember once where I've been happy with it.
Antonio scored 4 goals last season in the first game.
I didn't even have him. I didn't even have Antonio.
But it's like. From a psychological point of view, okay, maybe there's something in it because if you really cannot take a blank, then perhaps you shouldn't be doing it. Not you, Chris, but as any people in general. But for me, if the fixture's right, I just don't care. I remember captaining Kane before in early game weeks. He scored braces, hat tricks. I pretty much when I choose my captain, I don't even look at what time the game is. Just choose.
It makes
crazy.
No difference.
Yeah, exactly.
Maybe
it
a bit
makes no difference. I'm just saying. Psychologically, it does, right? It makes a bit.
Oh, yeah, for some people, for sure.
I guess, like you say, if you're going to spend all weekend fretting about it and it's going to affect your weekend, then maybe you can make your decision based on that because it's important that end of the day it is a game, despite the fact that we all treat it like so much more. It is important that it doesn't completely ruin 9 months of your year. But if you can just set it aside. Obviously, as you say, it makes no difference. But I think more than that as well, you end up confirmation biasing yourself into either captaining or not captaining and going, Kane is a great early captain because for some reason he likes half 12, which again, unless you're Dennis
He's an
Bergkamp
early
and you don't
riser.
fly, there's just no real reason for that, right?
Yeah, no.
He's been down Tesco at 7:30, so he's.
I mean, all it's going to take is Aubameyang to score a brace in the second half, and we'll forget all the.
We'll forget about What do you think? What about? Have any of us got? I know you've not done whole teams yet, but has anybody else got? I've got Son. What else we got for Spurs? Because I had Kane earlier, and it's just too expensive.
Well, I wanted to come back to this really quickly on Digne versus Doherty.
Go on then,
Interestingly, Aurier's not been sold yet. That's one thing to say. And if he's not sold, I can't imagine that he just stops playing completely. I know he makes some mistakes, but. He was used. I mean, they obviously didn't have too many other options, but used a lot by Mourinho. So that was one slight thing that might put me off Doherty. Is he absolutely nailed? And also, he's not going to be in the box. We don't think he will be. Anyway. I don't think they're going to go to a back five. So I don't think he's going to be in the box as much as he was at Wolves. So I think he could be a good option. But again, as someone who's looked at the numbers quite a lot, Spurs' defence, even when Mourinho come in, has not been good. And they've not really, apart from Højbjerg, might help a little bit.
Yeah, Højbjerg might help.
Yeah, it might help a bit. Again, it's a defence I'd rather see, and Everton's defence was actually okay last year.
Yeah.
Not up with the Wolves, Man United, and Liverpool, etc. But it wasn't too far behind. And with those signings, I actually think Lucas Digne is probably overlooked a bit. Obviously, Spurs away is not a great first opening fixture, but the next
I was looking
brilliant.
beyond that definitely. I'm just going to suck up whatever that comes in.
West Brom, Crystal Palace, and Brighton.
Yeah, that's the problem at the moment, though, isn't it? Is especially with City United out, you've kind of got your first week team, and then you've got to start thinking what you're planning for the next few weeks. I had multiple setups that had United players on the bench, and I just couldn't justify having that much money just sat there in the end. I mean, so that's kind of why I went with. I mean, like Son as it stands, we'll see how Aubameyang does, but Son as it stands was always my thought. Well, let's see how he does the first game. If I'm not, I've never had a great relationship with Son as I'm holding him. So I'm kind of prepared to sacrifice him out, and I'm even prepared to take a hit. I really do want Fernandes. I just do. I just kind of like
hits for Fernandes already. Yeah. I was saying hits for Fernandes already. That's that would be an interesting.
No,
have you got any money in the bank?
I might do it next week. I might not do it as a hit. I might not do a hit, but I will want to bring him in, sooner rather than later. I wouldn't have to get hit if Aubameyang was Salah massively disappoints. I'm not convinced, and there's an easier switch there.
I ended up switching Son to Pulisic late, like literally 30 seconds, 40 seconds before the deadline, because I remember how many times I've said to myself, if Pulisic was fit for the start, I would definitely have him in my team. And I'm perfectly aware that he might not start in this opening game, but I think going forward, he should be a regular. And Lampard didn't actually tweak his team that much last season. Once players were fit, they kind of stayed in the team. So I'm hoping that will happen with Pulisic. The one thing I like with Son, though, is obviously Chelsea play Liverpool in Gameweek 2, which is not necessary. It's at home, and again, whether that matters or not, we probably need a bigger sample size to figure that out. And obviously there was a 5-3 at the end of last season. I'm not sure there was going to be that many goals, but ultimately Chelsea could do okay there. But it's Gameweek 3 where it's really good. Whereas with Son, you got Everton and Southampton, slightly better fixtures than, arguably slightly better fixtures than Chelsea. And then if he is performing, whether that's from exactly, and he's got Newcastle in Game Week 5. It's West Ham at home as well. So apart from Man United away in Game Week 4, the first four or five are pretty good for Son. So he's a bit like some people are using with Robertson. Is if he's performing, great, you keep him. If not, there's so many other midfielders you can just go to. Yeah. Chelsea in particular, Havertz and Pulisic. So I quite like him, but I didn't go for him in the end. I actually went for Pulisic. One of the reasons for that, I'll bring my team up quickly. Was so I had 0.5 in the bank, and I've just realised this isn't actually my team.
Is this your team?
No, I've got the wrong bloody team. No, I've just changed it. I've got the wrong bloody team up. Hang on, I'll go and fix that now. I don't have James in the end. Let me see. Matchday. Where's my team?
A free kick in a decent.
Well, talk us through that while I'm messing with Photoshop.
So, probably close to a corner. I think Tierney gave it away. I don't think he's been booked for it. But basically a corner, to be honest. Right tight to the byline.
I'm just waiting for Aubameyang to get sent off at this point. Imagine that he gets a second yellow card. That would be
See, you joke, but before Tierney gave away that foul, Aubameyang had a little bite. It was one of those, please don't go down, please don't go down. Yeah.
The thing is, it's not like it wouldn't even be if that happens. Obviously, it'd be bad.
It's cleared away.
But it would just make an easy transfer to either Man City or Man United. So it's not. It's actually better if it doesn't happen. Obviously, better for us to own him too, but makes it more exciting for the game. Have I changed that correctly now? No, I have not. Jesus, you'd think I knew what I was doing at this point, wouldn't you? Let me see.
On Spurs, I'd spent a lot of time trying to get their players in my team, but I was trying to get the team in my team rather than necessarily an individual player. And every time I got either Doherty, Kane, Son, even a bit of Dele Alli, there was always either a better option or a cheaper option, or maybe a reason not to. So Son is amazing in FPL in the right circumstances, but with him playing out left with Kane up front, with Europa League, he maybe worried me. Although, like I said before, I had Havertz, Kane, Son's only 0.5 more. He was probably the closest I had.
Yeah.
Dele Alli is tempting, apart from the fact that at the end of the season, even though he was unfit for a bit of it, Lo Celso seemed preferred there and did a very good job. And then Harry Kane, I've got Jamie Vardy, it's only 0.5, but that 0.5 is hard to find at 10 million. And I think you mentioned it earlier, just watching him play for England, he didn't look that impressive. He was good at the end of last season, but I've never fully trusted him since having him at about 5-6 million, whatever it was, and him doing great. Ever since then, for whatever reason, I don't think I've trusted him.
Yeah, it's fair enough. I haven't got him for kind of similar reasons. Like Kane was never really in my thinking because it was just too much money. Like if he was the same price as Werner, then it's a little bit of a different story. But that 1 million was just too hard to get. I've actually got my team on the screen now. So one of the reasons I went for Pulisic instead of Son, other than just hoping that he would do better, of course, is to have 0.5 in the bank. Because I'm kind of aware that I've taken a few kind of risky moves. Like Luke Shaw, for example, he should be fit, should be fine, and I kind of trust the Man United defence with the fixtures they've got. But also aware he's not playing this week, and if he gets injured in that friendly, that's going to be a bit of an annoyance straight away. And
you
also
couldn't resist a Man United defender, Harry Maguire
you can't help yourself,
2021.
The thing is, like, one of the reasons was he's 5 million, and I think there's a lot of defend. I just basically didn't want too many 4.5 million defenders, so I think the 5 million slot. I'm not saying they're all right now available and looking really good and obvious options, but there are a lot of potential options. If Spurs' defence is suddenly good, you got Dyer and Davis, you got Reece James if somehow he finds himself week in week out playing. I got Saiss, I got Shaw. There's also Chelsea centre backs potentially at 5 million as well. I've got 0.5 in the bank, so I can go up to a 5.5. I've got my eye on Chilwell and someone like that as well eventually. So that's one of the reasons. But also, despite what people might think, Man United's defence is pretty good. Like we don't concede too many goals. We only conceded a few more than Liverpool last year. Underlying numbers look good as well. And there is like a part of me that's like, could he get back to like the season before where he got 5 assists? And I'm not saying that's like brilliant. It's not Trent levels or Robertson levels, but coupled with the amount of clean sheets we get and the price, I think what are the 4 fixtures after today? It's Brighton away, Spurs at home, quite difficult. Crystal Palace of course. Then it's Brighton away. Spurs at home, tricky enough, I guess, and then Newcastle away. So Palace, Brighton, Newcastle, potential for 2 clean sheets there. I think that's not out of the question. So that's basically what I went for. I'm not saying he's a long-term pick for me, but yeah, it was. Yeah, it probably subconsciously was the Man United factor, but
I think it's a decent shout. Although for me, I've kind of never really looked past Trenton, Robertson, or maybe Van Dijk. I think it's one of those. It's how I started last year, and even though I think they only kept 13, 14 clean sheets last year, it just seems so easy to go, okay, I picked these 2, they will stay there every week no matter what, and then I can build from there. And of course, if something does go wrong, they're both expensive. I can move down to anyone there's a bit of money, 2 million down to even a £5 million defender, Luke Shaw, for example. 2 million's a lot to then suddenly change my midfield or my strike force. I think Robertson, so you look at their first few fixtures, I don't think they'll keep a clean sheet in the first 3. I fancy us to score later. I think Chelsea will score, and then we'll see with Arsenal. But he almost doesn't need a clean sheet. If he was and I know you say, oh, he's a 7-man midfielder. It's not about that. It's about the pair, of course, and cheaper midfielders are obviously less valuable. But if he was a midfielder, he got 12 assists last year, I think. James Maddison is 7 million, and he gets about 7 goals and 7 assists a year. It just feels like a free midfielder at a decent price with added points for clean sheets and other stuff. And if they do go and clean, and I'm not, for defenders, I'm not necessarily I'm only picking him for these 3 weeks. I was talking to, I think it was my brother the other day. If you go for Trent and Robbo, you're kind of committing to almost a half season. Unless something massively changes, you're saying, I think they're going to keep say 10 clean sheets in their first 19 games, and I think both of them will get half a dozen assists. But I don't know when those are going to come, so I need to keep them for that entire time just to reap those points.
Yeah, I'm definitely not against. I don't think anyone can genuinely sit there and argue against owning both of them because they're just so good, and they have been. They were last year, they were the year before. Obviously, Trent was a little bit different because he didn't get as many minutes, but yeah, they were brilliant. I certainly wouldn't argue against it. I don't have an argument against it, but I just felt there was quite a few cheaper defenders, and because of their fixtures, I wanted to start like that and then maybe move on to them. I'm definitely not ruling out going for Robertson or Van Dijk at some point. But I don't know. I got this thing about the 5 million slot that there's potentially good value there. Like if this Marçal guy doesn't come in for Wolves, for example, then I got potentially Wolves clean sheets for just like 9.5 million between Vinagre and Saiss. And again, from what we know, they're a very, very good defence. Not everything from last year will necessarily carry on to this year, but at the moment, that's all we have to go on. And outside of that Man City game in Game Week 2, the fixtures are so good for Wolves. I just thought I'd try and go a bit cheap this year. I did start with Trent and Robbo last year, so definitely not against it. But this year, I don't know, just with all the bigger hitters and stuff and wanting Werner, I just found it a bit more difficult. I'd say, I said this on Breakfast Club, the player that's really kind of held me back a little bit, probably, versus a lot of other teams, is Calvert-Lewin. Because a lot of people have
Tell us about Calvert-Lewin.
Well, a lot of people. I should just quickly say it's half-time. It's 1-0. Aubameyang's yellow card and Mitrovic still not playing. We might talk about how the game's gone in just a second, but yeah, Calvert-Lewin. Obviously, he's a bit more expensive. A lot of people have gone maybe Adams and Mitrovic and saved a bit of money there. And obviously, I've had to spend the extra $1 million, which meant it was quite difficult to try and get Robertson in. But yeah, it's just the midfield. I looked at his numbers from last year. Like a lot of people fixated on post-lockdown. I just looked at the whole season, and his numbers were good. I'm not no one's saying he's the best finisher, but he's going to get chances. And then my main thing was if they sign a good midfield, then I'll keep him, and they did. So at that point, I kind of had to stick to what I said really, and I do think it's a bit annoying that you have to pay the extra 0.5 over a Wilson or an Antonio, but at the same time, a bit like we were saying earlier about downgrades. There's not really anyone. I mean, maybe Ings 8.5, but there's no one until you get to 8.5 or 9 that I'd probably want. So if I'm downgrading, there are so many options in the 6 to 6.5. Obviously, I don't know right now who's going to emerge as the one to have. But if I need to downgrade to then put that money in defence instead, job done, right? I could change Shaw and Calvert-Lewin to Robertson and a 4.5 million forward. And I've got not only have I got Robertson instead, but I've also got 0.5 in the bank as well. So. Yeah, that's just basically how I've started. I think also the fixtures kind of made... I kind of talked myself into the fact it was okay because it was Leeds, Chelsea, Arsenal to start with. Whether or not I'll actually use a transfer to shift to double Liverpool defence, I don't know. But yeah, that's basically why I've done it. And that's why I've got Calvert-Lewin. And I'm waiting for him to blank against Spurs and then everyone to give me stick, bearing in mind they've still got...
I mean, I was Everton fan. I'm a big fan of DCL. But he just when he was under 23, he's always under 21, in the youth team. He was smashing them in, and he looks just occasionally it looks class, but he just seemed to, maybe it'll just be the season he pushes on, and maybe he'll just get a lot better service, with was a bit of the midfield just a bit stronger, maybe have a bit more possession, there'll be more chances for him. His finishing just doesn't quite convince. He's just not quite there. But Ancelotti believes in him, so he's definitely going to get game time for a while.
That's another.
I can't see us by anybody.
Yeah, sorry. That's another thing that kind of made me want him a bit more. Is Ancelotti's talked him up, and don't get me wrong, most managers talk their players up, right? There's a good reason for that. They're not going to say, "Oh, no, he's actually not that good," but he seems very kind of confident in him. And yeah, you haven't bought anyone else, and there doesn't seem to be any rumours being players being linked to Everton outside of the midfielders. So I think he is going to be the main man again this year. And talked about earlier, if you want to go and get all these stats, there's a link to the members area in the description below. But his XG per 90 was 0.5. So that's the same as Ings last year. This is for the whole season. And it's slightly higher than Jimenez. And again, if you're talking about who's better finisher, yes, Jimenez, ahead of Calvert-Lewin. But maybe there's still room for improvement. And if he's going to get that many chances again...
No, he's still a young player.
Yeah, so
there is talk about Maxi Gomez. That's one thing that's been persisting. I don't know how realistic that is. At Valencia, there's been a lot of talk about that on and off throughout the pre-season on the Toffee web and place like that. But,
you think it's maybe... Oh, sorry, go on.
That's it.
Oh, cheers. I was going to say, do you think it's maybe like team coverage as much as anything else. It's always a very, very tempting thing to go, this team. I mean, we're all looking to try and get a Man United player, and then we're wondering which one. We think Man United will score goals, therefore I must have one.
Yeah.
And I used to do that an awful lot. And I feel like, well, of course, obviously, team is important. That's who the players play for. But I feel like, you look at people who triple up on, say, Liverpool at City at certain times. It's the players that obviously score the points. And even if you like the look of Everton or like the look of Spurs, if you can't pick the player that's going to return those points for you, maybe you just leave them alone altogether. So do you think you've got Calvert-Lewin mostly because you like the Everton midfield, you like their chances, so you're trying to get involved in some of the points?
I do think I've probably done that. I don't think this pick was on that though. This year I'm trying to use stats a little bit more, and one of the things I did before I started really putting the team together was looking at per 90 stats. Obviously, yes, adjusting to some players because they don't always play 90 minutes, etc. And Calvert-Lewin's popped up to me as someone who did really well over the whole season, and I wasn't too convinced or sure about how much weight to put on post-lockdown because yes, there was that huge break, but I was just thinking, has everything really changed because of 8 or 9 games? Like, where the point now, because let's remember, at some point last season, like Calvert-Lewin was almost seen as essential at one point because he was so cheap.
Yeah.
And obviously he's gone up, and you have to factor that in. That's why I've not even looked at the likes of Jimenez that much, really. And then I said, hey, he looks good as a forward. If they get a midfield behind him, then I think he's a good option for 7. It wasn't really to cover points. Like, I wouldn't really. Like, Richarlison hasn't come into my thinking at all because he's a million more. So I don't think so. No, I don't think it was a cover Everton
Fair
type
enough.
thing. Yeah, not for him anyway. I probably do get drawn into that at times. Like Adams, for example, it's like Southampton scored quite a few goals. A lot of them were Ings. Can he really score that many? But then, and this is where I guess it's a bit of a contradiction. For him, it was more his post-lockdown performance that he finally got into the team. He finally started scoring. Can he carry that on? Whereas Calvert-Lewin is like, I kind of ignored post-lockdown because he'd played well for like 29 other games. So we'll see. And also the fixtures, of course. Like once I saw the fixtures as well, the next 3, they're pretty good. It might not come off. Like I'm fully aware that I probably haven't picked a squad of 15 that are all going to do well, and that I'll have to use transfers. But that's the aim of the game. I was going to ask you guys actually something before the game comes back up, which I'm interested in getting your thoughts about. We'll start with you, Seb. So one thing that's changed this season now is the deadline has obviously been brought forward. So we've already seen how devastating it can. We've seen some people that were leaking last year have still leaked it early, but it doesn't matter now because the deadline's already gone. So what would have happened this year if we'd had those leaks is everyone would have swapped Mitrovic out. Bearing in mind he's owned by 25%, which is what, like 1.25 million people own him. There's 5 million managers. I think I've got that right. I haven't got that right, have I? Just over 1 million. Whatever. Yeah, I can't do maths. Whatever. There's over 1 million people own Mitrovic. A bunch of people own Mitrovic. So straight away, a lot of them, not obviously Twitter's a very small community, but a lot of them would have got rid of him. People have punted on Nketiah, they've punted on Saka, so they're stuck with them now. What do you make of that deadline move? Are you kind of happy that's happened? Because essentially, really quickly, I know I just asked you and then carrying on, but players like Saka and Nketiah are very cheap, so potentially they're absolute bargains. But is part of that risk that they get benched, should that be taken away by deadline leaks, do you think?
I wonder, I'd be interested in, so I used it last year, of course. Anyone who was, able to use it, of course you'd use something that is in your favour. I get the arguments about how maybe it's unfair for different parts of the world, although there's lots of reasons what things work differently in different parts of the world. You can't watch the matches live if you live in other parts of the world, but then you also maybe get them all on TV where we don't hear. But I think ultimately, I'd be interested in, if anyone could work this out, how beneficial actually was it? Because if Mitrovic is out today, let's say you've spent all your money and you've got the rest of your team locked in. So you've got 6 million to spend on a striker. You choose Shea Adams, who does nothing later. Mitrovic comes on and scores, or comes on and just gets 1 point. Doesn't come on, you get 1 point off the bench. There's no real difference. I wonder how many times people have burned transfers or even taken hits and actually ended up with a net lower amount of points over a period of time because they were reacting in the moment. Someone like, I think there was a good one last year with Robertson, was he either missed out in a week or was confirmed to be in, and people were making moves on that basis. As I said earlier, Robertson for me, while I might not have him all season, it's a long-term bet if you like. Just changing him for one match potentially actually damages your points in the longer term. So maybe it's just simpler not to have it. It's less stress at the deadline as well, right? You make your plan, you stick to it.
I think that, but last season it basically decided the winner, right? I mean, I think that the guy that won it, or didn't win it, I don't know, whatever. However you look at it, it's a bit complicated. But yeah, but on the day, someone got access to that and the information and yeah, I know what you're saying. People could find information anyway. I think maybe there's a bit here that's more of there's a sort of politics and about information being leaked in channels that it shouldn't be. So that's part of it. I prefer it this way. I mean, I don't think the extra half hour makes a massive difference. I think it. I know what you're saying. How much impact did it really have? I think if you point out that time when a guy went with his Liverpool triple captain or captain double, and the other one got rid of it, then it obviously did make a big change.
I take your point on the last week. Like that aside was massive. Fair enough.
But I think that I don't think it's a massive inconvenience either. It's probably not very happy. There's certain Twitter accounts that probably slightly less popular than they were now because who cares if the for FPL at least if you line up after your pick. But I think it's a good move. I think so. I think you can't go one way or the other. You have to be at a time when most people can get access to it. The news, like you're half an hour before or whatever, which technically is probably very hard, or you're at a distance in ahead. It's hard. I mean, it's half an hour difference. Really, has it made that much difference to us deciding? It takes one other thing to worry about as well. Isn't it? It's one other thing you have to think about out of your thinking. I don't know. What do you think, Andy? You asked the questions. What's your take?
I kind of prefer it. There's part of me though that thinks like the Mitrovic thing. I do feel so harsh for owners because it's come out of the blue. Yeah, he missed the final, but he did. As far as unless I've got it wrong, someone in the chat can let me know. He did play for Serbia. I think he played 180 minutes. So it's kind of come out of the blue, and in that regard, like it can be so frustrating when you put all that time in and then bam, he's missing. But at the same time, I think people were punting on Arsenal players because they were cheap. And yes, if they play, that's an absolute bargain. But some of that, there should be some risk involved with those moves. You are risking that they don't start. And if you get told that every week, I know it's only one game. Like most of the time, there's only one game at the deadline. So the chance of it being a big thing every single week. But yeah, I think I prefer it overall as well. I don't necessarily think it's going to make a huge difference because you're right. Sometimes it doesn't. Like I made my changes last year and I got Van Dijk and Nico Williams in. And Nico Williams did nothing. I can't remember who I took out, but it wasn't a good move. But Van Dijk did okay, he scored. But yeah, it doesn't always give you. But I always think the reverse of that is you'd always want the info rather than not having it. Like you're always going to want it. So the game's back on, I think, according to people in chat.
Yeah, so, indeed, just kicked off.
Any action, or is it literally just kicked off?
Literally the classic kick-off and boot it down the other end of the pitch.
Okay, perfect.
I'm so happy that Fulham are back up. It's one of my favourite grounds to go to as an away fan, I must admit. I mean, despite the fact that I live quite in Ealing, quite close to Brentford, so the local community was a little bit. Brentford kind of threw it away a bit at the end of the year, which is a shame. But I do like going to Fulham. It feels like it's like in the old school football. It's like you always have a kind of like a China teacup while you're watching soccer.
It's got a cottage. What's not to like?
It's just nice. Yeah. I don't know. It's you're so close to everything. I know it's good. So hopefully at some point we'll get back to the grounds. I don't know when that's going to be, but sooner rather than later.
Yeah, fingers crossed. I've just seen Anthony in chat saying, "Is anyone else already debating giving up FPL?" Like, I'll tell you now, it can get better. Like there will be time. Like I think one of the things to point out, and I think this is a genuine thing. Right now, FPL is the busiest it will be all season. People will drop off. It happens every single year. The percentage-wise, the percentage same will probably drop off. Overall, there'll be more active players this year, but percentage of starting now. So what you'll see is people have used their triple captains because they think they can use it every week, and all this kind of stuff builds up some people's scores to be big. I wouldn't be surprised if I'm way outside the top million come this game, but it doesn't. It just doesn't.
Aubameyang on the charge inside
the
area. And that came to nothing. Went to put it across the face, that came to nothing.
How is he playing in general? Like, is he getting chances and scuffing them, or is he just a bit unlucky not to?
He had that one chance in the first half, and obviously put Lacazette, I'd say through, but Lacazette probably would have squared it, but he was offside. And then he's just had a little run there where he's gone from just about halfway to outside the area. I'd say that's probably it. Oh, and he got booked.
What's
booking is important?
Yeah,
take away that clean sheet point that he now earns.
Oh yeah, of course, forgot about that. All joking aside about William becoming a bandwagon as a player for this particular game, how have you think he's been? Because it is his it's his debut today for us. Has he done all right?
Yeah, I mean, I guess fantasy football aside, I think Lacazette has maybe been the most effective, coming short, going through, laying through others, and having chances himself. Willian clearly has been more involved than Aubameyang. He's maybe a fortunate assist. Obviously, he's right there inside the 6-yard box, but maybe a slightly fortunate assist for Lacazette. The free kick, which was close, and he's looked dangerous. He's looked more involved than Aubameyang. But I think going forward, if he hasn't got that assist early on, you maybe aren't having the conversation we're having.
No, I just, okay, fair enough. I thought, I saw it mentioned in chat, so I thought we'd see. So people asking if Nketiah should be brought on, but it sounds like Lacazette is doing
Lacazette's
good.
doing a really good job, yeah.
I wonder if it's because of the type of team as well. Like a lot is made of Nketiah, maybe in being a bit better in the press, so perhaps they'll play him in certain other games. So we'll have to wait and see who gets the minutes there. I see someone in the chat here, I won't try and pronounce that name, it's very long, Jada, I think. Ings and Adams double up. I mean, Chris, what would you? Obviously, you haven't done that, but what do you make of people that have done the Ings and Adams double up? Which, interestingly, I've done in fan team. That is my fan team.
Interesting. I don't think it's stupid. I mean, I think. I mean, I would if I could have Ings at last season's price. I'd have had Ings, right?
Gabriel has just scored.
Okay.
Who?
that centre back that we were saying.
Oh, no way. I think Az was talking about him. Willian assist, apparently. Is that right?
Oh, my God.
It was from a corner, so there's a very good chance.
Willian's the man.
I take back everything I just said.
I think Az was looking at him. He was looking at Gabriel and.
Oh, it is indeed a Willian assist. That is very bad goalkeeping.
Imagine if he gets
I have mentioned Willian as an option.
I have to.
Yeah, maybe he's away in. Maybe exactly. Let's save some money.
I need to check my mate's team now because I think he said he had double Arsenal defence. Surely he's not got Gabriel. Okay, he's got Leno and Tierney. That's not so bad then. That would have annoyed me if he'd had Gabriel from the start. There we go. So yeah, I do think Willian when he's on the pitch is going to get most of those set pieces. So it's just penalties. But again, we know he's not going to get them. 2-0, fair enough. Nice and early.
Surely Mitrovic has got to make an appearance at some point. It's mental. What's he waiting for?
I was just checking. He did indeed play twice for Serbia over the break.
Yeah,
scored 1 goal as well. I guess if he's just tired from that, maybe you just give him today off. You know, if you're 2-0 down, even 3-0 in a 15 minutes time, maybe you go just give him the day off.
Yeah,
which might be better for some people if they've got. I don't know.
Better than coming on 5 minutes at the end, probably. Yeah.
Exactly.
I imagine though, like he played 90 minutes so often last year. I just can't imagine how knackered he is. But I mean, or maybe he is. Like again, we'll probably find out more after the game. Obviously, if there is any news, we'll have it on site and on Twitter as well. If there's anything that Parker says, I've not seen anything though so far about specifically why. But yeah, that goal, 49 minutes, so could be a long afternoon now for Fulham. I mean,
If Fulham are going to defend that way from set pieces in the rest of the season, it's going to be a very long season. That was very poor.
It was very
poor
bad.
defence.
Who do they have next? Oh, they have Leeds next. Any Leeds boys going to be good from set pieces?
Annoyingly, we are famously terrible at set pieces. It was basically an opportunity to give the opposition the ball back. It's oddly enough for a coach like Bielsa, it's the one thing I think I mentioned it when I spoke to you earlier in the summer, but we went short a couple of times and that kind of worked. But every time we slung it into the box, Phillips has a nice delivery on him. But every time we slung it into the box, it seemed to come to nothing. I don't know if we just didn't work it on training or we don't have the players suitable for it. It's worth noting that Robin Koch, our new centre-back, did have a decent shot rate, a decent XG at Freiburg before he joined us. Although he only scored 1 goal, I think he had 7 big chances from centre-back. So maybe there's a bit of an improvement there. But really, of all the teams in the league, we're probably right at the bottom for set-piece threat.
There you go. Then won't be targeting them for the next game, but maybe in the future. I don't actually. I think I was saying earlier about Mitrovic. Fulham's fixtures are not that easy. I'm just going to have a look now who might be able to target. Yeah, Wolves up in game week 4. I don't know, potentially Jimenez or someone from a set piece there. We'll have to wait and see how they go on for the rest of this game. I'm just looking at FPL Black Boxes in the chat. Go and follow them if you haven't already. I don't know if it's Az or Mark. It says Gabriel on debut, dreams do come true. So maybe it's Az. I don't think he went for him in the end though. So I'm just seeing now.
I think Mark's team's up on the site, so you can check if it was Mark's team.
Yeah. No, he definitely didn't have Gabriel. Absolutely not. Oh no, I had to post the link because I realised I'm probably 15 years older than everyone else. That'll be Mark then. I don't think Az is 15 years older than most people in the chat. Okay, here we go. Coach said Mitrovic had not prepared with the team. They had a game plan they'd been working on for the last 10 days. Okay, that's a quote from the chat. So if that's true, maybe
interesting. Yeah.
I mean, let's be honest. None of us are expecting Mitrovic to now keep missing games, right? He's going to be back sooner rather than later, especially with this result. I just saw a question there about Havertz. I've lost it now. I think it was Havertz and Pulisic. Let's just say it was Havertz and Pulisic. Chris, what are you making of Chelsea? Obviously, made loads of new signings. Are you looking at bringing any players in?
I had Pulisic in a lineup earlier and I took him out. I think I put my son's a Chelsea fan, so I did his team this morning. So I put Pulisic in there, and I looked at Havertz as well. I've seen. I just think it's very difficult. Same we were talking about earlier with Rodriguez. I think it's how else have you like to do it? But it's when the players come into the Premier League, it's kind of so hard to know how they're going to fit in. You know, and especially that way. You know, Chelsea have signed so many. Where they're all going to slot in and who's going to play where. It's too early for me for that. So I'm definitely interested. And I'll definitely monitor. And it seems like a bit of a wonder kid. And I just want to see him play a couple of games and where Frank's got him playing before I even think about it. To be honest. But yeah, I didn't even have. In the end, I went with Son anyway. So I've not got anything apart from Werner. Again, I'm having just countering my argument entirely. I've got Werner up front, so
I think Werner's a little bit of an easier pick because he's just had so much more time at the club already and has been training stuff. Just before we carry on with Chelsea, the Raven effect's just coming in. That's some game plan. Obviously, talking about the game plan Fulham have got after losing 2-0 with 50 minutes gone. So yeah, fair enough. And someone's asked, is Pepe a risk? I mean, he's literally not playing, so I think that tells you he is definitely a risk going. I mean, as good as Willian is playing, I don't know. I guess the assumption is that Willian will get good minutes. So not that we're going to keep talking about Willian all day, but
who'd have thought
it's the Willian cast?
With the Willian cast.
But maybe he will get good minutes. But at the end of the day, they've got so much competition there. You're always going to have that worry, unless he starts for the next 4 or 5 games. I wouldn't ever consider him nailed on. Here we go. Here's a good question. We'll come back to Chelsea in a second. We'll come to you, Seb, as a fan of a newly promoted side. Who do you think are the relegation candidates already for this season? Who would you have right now?
It's a bit harsh.
West Brom, definitely. Based on, Fulham don't look awful here, but they're doing exactly what they did in the Championship, which is keep plenty of the ball. I think it's relatively even on possession, but Arsenal have had most of the threat. It's keep the ball in that sort of final third zone, but then don't necessarily actually offer all that much. So if they don't change that, okay, Arsenal are a decent team, a good team, top 6, top 8. But if they don't actually change that, I think they might be very, very easy to set up against. So I'd be tempted to say West Brom, Fulham. And then I know a lot of people fancy Palace to keep sliding down. I don't know. I mean, you'd back them to be able to set themselves up solidly. I think the last spot is open. Should I go Sheffield United just to cause trouble?
Oh, wow. Go on.
Sheffield United? Wow.
Well, I mean, there's always second season is always more difficult, right?
Yeah, no, it's true.
Fulham have just flashed one across the area.
Getting chances.
Yeah, yellow card for Bellerin.
Speculative.
Yellow card for Bellerin as well.
I mean, as someone who's not watching, obviously losing 2-0 against Arsenal is what you'd expect. Like, what do you think? How are Fulham doing? Basically, do you think? I mean, they're playing Arsenal, right? So it's not an easy game anyway.
I just don't really see where the goals that will keep them up are coming from. Of course, Mitrovic is on the bench, so maybe that's where those goals are coming from. Yeah. But I don't particularly rate their defence, as Chris mentioned on that set piece on that corner. It just was not impressive. If you're going to let goals in easily at the back and can't necessarily score them up front, I don't know where the 40 points are coming from.
Yeah, fair enough. Well, go on. We need to hit. We'll come to Chris in a set with his, but we need to come back to you. Sheffield United. Where's that coming from?
A little bit fishy-ish. I think trying to avoid the obvious ones like Crystal Palace. I think if it's one of those second season, I don't think they maybe will necessarily go down. But you look at Watford. We were talking about them earlier, who went from I think Aubameyang's just scored.
Oh, come on! Yes, come on!
Corner of the box, very much an Aubameyang goal.
People are saying
no idea who assisted it. Probably
Who cares? Who cares? Aubameyang scored. Happy days. That's what you need.
Yes. 12 million well spent.
That is what you want, though, right? You want your captain to score in the opening game week, especially given how big captaincy can be. It
really might be a Willian assist.
Oh, are you kidding?
It is a Willian assist.
It is a Willian assist. I've seen it now. Willian, nice ball across. The defence. Where's the defence?
Yeah, I like what we were saying. That's that Aubameyang goal though, right? We were saying, he's not involved, and then you get him on the left channel. He comes in, he puts it in the far post.
Which is how Henry used to be like that, didn't he? He scored that. It's the same goal, not exactly that goal, but his one goal cutting in.
Oh yeah.
And he's pretty clear at this point. That's how Arteta's going to use him. Like, there's no. They've got so many wide players. He could quite easily be playing through the middle today, and he's still playing on that left. So it's quite clear at this point. That's where Arteta prefers him.
I think his stats last year were actually better from under Arteta at least were better from that position than compared to up front. Although that was mostly Emery.
It was a little bit. I can't remember exactly how far through the season it was, but I wrote an article at one point and I touched on Aubameyang because a lot of people are like, he plays wide a bit, but percentage-wise, it's not always that easy because you got to look deeper into who they've played. But percentage-wise, he scored more from wide than he had actually through the middle. So, yeah,
Ronaldo plays on the left, doesn't he?
Exactly.
In theory.
Yeah. So no worries there. But it is. I don't know about you, Chris, but I feel like it's a big relief. Oh, you haven't got Aubameyang captain, have you?
No, I didn't go. I didn't go because I said I thought
Salah
I had,
blank.
and then I changed it today to Salah. So I've still got over. I'm still happy with the goal. I mean, this is enough now. That's fine. I've got my returns. I don't need any more for you, captain. That's fine.
Well,
but
at least
Fulham's defence. I mean, okay, it's game week 1. It's 58 minutes in, but that was shocking. Like, I thought the set piece was pretty bad, but there wasn't even an attempted challenge on him. I mean, I don't know. This it just looked too easy. And now Arsenal are pushing again. I don't know. It's just Fulham seems to be a bit brittle at the moment. And against first match, I'm sure stuff will be done. But that was too easy.
But Arsenal aren't the most potent. Of course, they're a good side, and we've all captained Aubameyang for a reason. But I mean, half the league are going to produce a good volume of shots against this Fulham side.
Yeah. I think I'm just looking at the table now just to remind myself of who's in the league as if I don't already know. But it's just
who's
easy.
In the league, Andy?
It's easier to sometimes.
Norwich are going down, right?
It's easier sometimes to visualise it. So, I mean, it's always obviously easy and for good reason to predict the newly promoted sides to go down. I think West Brom and Fulham would have to be up there. I think I've listened to so much about how good Leeds are. I'm kind of almost convinced this year they can just stay up. But I must admit, outside of that, it's very tricky to think. Like right now, West Ham potentially.
I was going to say West Ham. I think West Ham. Moyes did a great job for us, and I think he's maybe he'll keep it steady. But I don't know. It looks like there's a few weird things still going on. Players departing, they didn't want us to get rid of. I don't know.
I guess Brighton and Villa also came quite close.
Yeah.
Last year, so there's always them up for a game. But I guess they've improved in certain areas. Villa have bought who's it? Watkins, right?
Yeah.
So maybe he'll help. And Brighton have obviously kept Ben White as well. So maybe he'll help them a little bit. So there's those two and West Ham, I guess. But it could be, I don't know. I don't think you'd hope at this point Newcastle wouldn't get dragged into it again with the signings they've made.
Newcastle bought pretty well, haven't they?
Yeah, exactly.
I think the Fraser Wilson thing could be great points.
William's been fouled a bit further out than the last one, but he could put a shot in here or at least put it to the back post.
I can't believe
the Willian, you mean?
I mean, talking about relegated teams, and obviously right now we're looking at Fulham losing. It's very easy to say that, but I think something that every year the team that eventually goes down is often the one that wasn't immediately bad.
Yeah.
Because if Fulham lose their first 5 matches, Scott Parker's job is in question. Then maybe they bring in someone who shores it up and they do stay up. So it's kind of, you predict the team that's terrible now, and they're actually sometimes the one that's most likely to make a quick change and potentially save themselves. Someone like Watford, where they just started sliding and arguably maybe made the wrong managerial change.
Yeah.
I don't know how many people would have predicted them at the beginning of the season, but by the end, it was quite an obvious one.
Yeah, it is a difficult one this year, I think. It'll be interesting to see what happens. I've just seen. I'm keeping an eye on the chat, so make sure you get your questions in. Bungle, there you go. What was the show? What was Bungle? Rainbow. Yeah. Jesus, I am old, aren't I? An FPL.
There's Compton, I think. Xhaka took it though, not Willian. Straight into the wall.
Fair enough. An FPL captain return properly makes the weekend. Jameson's instead of a pyramid bag later, he says. So there we go. Obviously, drink responsibly if you are going to have a few beers here. Andy's getting Willian because he's not watching the game. There is no way I'm buying Willian. It's
3 assists, treble assists for Willian.
And they got West Ham at home next.
Oh, Mitrovic is coming on.
Here we go. So he's not completely
just in time for a hat trick.
What? How many minutes are gone now?
Must be 62 in the 63rd minute. Kamara's come off, Mitrovic come on, and there's another change as well happening.
Okay, I guess
And Guistron.
I think looking at who most people have on their benches, if they own Mitrovic, they're probably happy he's come on. I don't think most people are looking to rely on their bench this week, so that's probably a good thing. Let's see what you can do in the next 28 or so minutes. And I guess the good thing is he's going to be there. I mean, no one bought Mitrovic for a 1 weeker against Arsenal at the end of the day, so it's not like you can you don't have to keep him.
We got Gabriel's top of the bonus points at the moment. Willian second and Lacazette third. I mean, I know these things can move about a fair bit, but interesting. Yeah, I mean,
he scored, hasn't he? I guess
Mark could be might get some bonus on top of his goal and his clean sheet if it stays where it is now. Yeah. He's probably not going to be happy to see Mitrovic on. I don't think if challenges that cleanly. But, yeah.
It's interesting those tops. So goal and a clean sheet, I guess. But Willian hat-trick of assists. It's surprising. I guess you need the goals for the big bonus points. But who was third? Lacazette, is it?
Lacazette at the moment, yeah.
I guess
and there's a bit of a gap to Holding and Tierney and stuff.
Lacazette's got the game-winning goal, which is a little bit as well, hasn't he? I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's going at this point or right at the end though, because there's that
going at
the end where they take out stuff. Yeah.
Oh, okay. I guess that's the thing with Aubameyang as well. With him being moved to midfield, of course, you get 1 more point for a goal, clean sheets, but he potentially misses out on quite a few bonus compared to last season because fewer BPS for the goals.
You also get a yellow card, which is always goes
against
you. So, yeah.
Oh yeah, he's probably out of the bonus unless he scores at least another. You're probably right. He's probably out of it, isn't he?
Yeah, he's going to need at least another goal, I think, to get it. I've not got the numbers right here. In fact, I can just get the numbers right here. I can just have a quick look. But yeah, I'd say you need at least another goal, especially with people like you've got a defender with a clean sheet and a goal. You've got William with 3 assists. It's going to be difficult. He's not even in there right now. Lacazette's on 32. Tierney's on 24, so he must be quite far behind, unfortunately. So it's captain return, but right now it's quite a small return. Someone in the chat's hoping for a Mitrovic own goal. I mean, that would be that would end
harsh.
That would end some people's seasons. They would be quitting.
Some people just want to watch the world burn.
Yeah, it would be quite funny. I mean, I switched that. I was talking about my team earlier. I actually switched to Adams quite late as well. I had Mitrovic. Obviously, didn't get any early team use. It was basically Mark talking to Mark kind of talked me out of it a little bit. I ended up looking at the fixtures a bit more closely and thinking they're not actually that good at all. Like Arsenal was going to be tricky. Obviously, he hasn't played, so it's hard to know. Leeds away could be tricky. Wolves away in Game Week 4 also looks quite tricky. Sheffield United away in Game Week 5 could also be tricky based on last year. I mean, Seb, what do you think about Sheffield United? Because last year they were like clean sheet dominant. Again, I looked quite heavily at the numbers. Their expected goals conceded were actually quite similar to Burnley, yet they conceded 11 less. A lot of that was down to Dean Henderson. Do you think Ramsdale can come in and do a similar job?
I think you've nailed it there. I think Dean Henderson had something like 8 goals prevented, was it? Which was the highest, or 8 expected goals prevented. I think Burnley comparison is a decent one. They're clearly set up to allow shots that maybe are savable, which for FPL is good. Ramsdale then therefore will make those saves. But the combination of that and being second season, and I'm not saying, I'm not saying everyone's worked out Sheffield United's way of playing. I think that does a disservice to both Sheffield United and the rest of the league, right? It doesn't take an entire year for people, professional managers to watch Match of the Day
they didn't really
to
change
finally realise.
Yeah.
Exactly. And then, so therefore they knew what was coming and people couldn't prevent it, which is then credit to Sheffield United. But I wonder maybe even away from the tactical side, that first year you go up, you're when I say little Sheffield United, I don't mean that disparagingly, but I mean compared to Man City, you're the new boys coming up and you want to fight. In the second season, maybe there isn't that same drive. So if you're therefore relying on what you were last year, which maybe is Henderson, and they don't particularly have, I don't think anyone's using any Sheffield United attacking assets. I've got Burke, but that's 4.5 million. If Ramsdale doesn't pull off those saves, if the defence isn't quite as good as it was, maybe they sit down the table. Realistically, not enough to for my prediction of relegation to come correct, I don't think. But I would have them closer to 10th than where they finished last year. I think Everton. If someone's going to take the Everton spot, I think it might finally be Everton again.
Okay, here's a flip question. We'll start with you, Chris. While we're just kind of touching on relegation with Sheffield United, who do you think is going to make top 4 this season?
Top 4? I mean, obviously you've got Liverpool and City. I think United finished so strongly last season. I think they're in there. Chelsea have to, Chelsea had a pretty decent season, have really strengthened. You've got to fancy them. So yeah, and then I think I don't know. I think Spurs and we'll wait and see. Arsenal, good start, and are tested really well. But I'd say those four. I'd say it's some combination of. I think City are probably going to win it if I had to put money on it, and then I think you've got Liverpool, Chelsea, and United in some order after that.
Yeah. Do you not fancy Mourinho's second season?
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. I just they didn't, as you say, like Kane didn't look that in internationals. I don't know. Well, I have to see how they play the first few weeks. I'm just not inspired by Spurs, and I don't find them I know Mourinho's not necessarily playing exciting football. I don't know. I think they'll do all right. I just don't think they're. I don't know. I feel they still need something. I think Ali seems to have gone off the boil a bit, and he was a real star in the making. He seems to have gone a bit quiet. Eriksen came in and scored, helped them with points and assists, and he's obviously moved out now. I don't know. I'm not as. I think Højbjerg's interesting, but he'll make them, he'll play that holding role and make them kind of more solid. But I don't really see. I don't know. I don't see that they're markedly stronger than they were. I mean, Doherty, I guess, is a good addition, but where he plays exactly, and how that works with Oreo is still to be seen. I don't know. I think they're a good side, and I think they'll be in the top 6. I don't think they're going to be better than. I'm not putting Arsenal in there either. I don't
it's so tough. It's so tough at the top now. There are literally outside of the traditional top 4, even top 6 now. Wolves right out there. Everton could be this year. It is tough there. Like I said, what do you think? Who have you got your money on for the league and top 4?
So obviously Liverpool, City at the top. I think City will win the league, but maybe flip of a coin, right? Liverpool, if they do win it won't be by as much, and City won't be as far behind. If they're closer, again, City still won that Champions League, so maybe they focus on that. But I think simply City can't underperform as much as they did last year, mostly because they'll have centre backs this time, and Liverpool won't. When I say overperform, just over the bar from Lacazette, I think. Probably Willian putting it in. We'll wait for a replay. Of
course. But, who else creates chances for Arsenal
exactly.
these days?
Aubameyang's come a little bit more central. Only tucking inside that left. I think it was. It's Xhaka putting it in. Aubameyang's coming a little bit more central with Maitland-Niles going around the outside. But I think Liverpool, not saying they overperformed to win the title, but there was a lot of games where they won by 1 goal. Basically, everything went the way they'd want it to. I think all they have to do is, that Everton game, they don't take the points away from that one. They suffer an injury to Salah, which they haven't really had for the entire time he's been there. And I think it's closer. So if I had to make that call, I'd say City. And then, I'm with Chris. I think below that, we haven't really spoken about Leicester, and I know they're not flavour of the week at the moment, but for most of last season, they looked comfortably third, never mind top 4. And it was arguably the loss of Ndidi and a few other injuries, Pereira and Ndidi, incredibly important to the way they play, that maybe Arsenal in the area. Aubameyang put it across to Lacazette, and somehow there's a save that he knows nothing about.
Come on.
Rodek going across the goal, trailing leg takes it, I think.
I just, before we carry on talking about the kind of top 4, I'll give my opinion a set. The team sheets are in for Palace versus Southampton, which is on at 3 o'clock.
Uh-oh.
No, nothing bad. Not that unless you took a punt on Eze or Batshuayi, because they're both on the bench, but I don't think many people did. So we'll start with Southampton. It looks pretty much as we'd expect. So McCarthy in goal, Walker-Peters right back. It doesn't actually say the formation, but going to assume he plays in his position. Stevens, Bednarak, Bertrand, Romeo. James Ward-Prowse, of course, 90-minute man. Small bones in there, actually, interestingly, because I guess, obviously, Armstrong's missing out. So Armstrong's not in the squad at all. We know he got injured. Nathan Redmond, Danny Ings, and Che Adams, of course, the Mitrovic killer, hopefully. So he's in there as well. Shane Long on the bench, along with Obafemi. In terms of Crystal Palace, so Mitchell does play. So Tyreek Mitchell, again, as we expected, with Van Arnold out. Ward right back, he's playing the front 3. You'd assume Eze will get that spot eventually. Ayew and Zaha. So the new signings, Eze and Batshuayi, both on the bench. What do you make of someone like Batshuayi? Because he's been talked about a lot. He's come to the league and never really done it, I would say. I don't know. It always feels like a striker that I think has got a bit of potential, but I don't know. It always feels like a striker that I think has got a bit of potential, but I don't know. It always feels like a striker that I think has got a bit of potential, but I don't know. It always feels like a striker that I think has got a bit of potential, but I don't know. It always feels like a striker that I think has got a bit of potential, but Yeah, what do you think about him? 6 million, Crystal Palace. Any FPL interest?
It's another of those, that 6 million slot, right? There's so many. I think one of you've got Calvert-Lewin. I think one of the smart things there is you now have got your pick of anyone 7 million and under. You can almost jump on them in form. Batshuayi has proven he can score goals. He has gone places and done it. He's also gone places and not done it. If there's a hint that he's operating as you'd like him to in that side, maybe more like the Benteke of old, obviously, although that was Villa, but I guess he's there to do that job, right? I think you could jump on him for fixtures. He's cheap enough to give him a go. I don't think you're going to get a 20-goal season out of him. But with those cheap strikers, I don't think anyone's planning on keeping them all year,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
It's about the fixtures. So if he plays every week and they get a run of good games, I think he's there for you.
Yeah, I'm just looking at that back line: Ward, Down, Krati, and Mitchell. I think I'm quite glad I've got Adams at this point, I must say, despite Mitchell being benched. But yeah, it looks like there could be some goals in it for Southampton. Just coming there before we'll touch on the Arsenal game again in a sec. Top four, I basically agree. I think City will win it. Like their XG last year was 94. Right, that's absolutely insane. Like, and like if they sign another centre back in particular, obviously just having Laporte back fit will be enough. But if they sign another centre back as well, it's going to be extremely tough to beat them, I think. And I think Chelsea just signed so many good players, and they were already so good. I think third and Man United fourth is how I would put it right now. It doesn't always work out like that, as we know. Mourinho is going to get a full season now. Arteta potentially a full season as well. So we'll have to see how that works out, but. Yeah, it'll be an interesting one. Chris, how's the game going? How are we looking? Any more potential goals coming?
So yeah, I was following your conversation. I wasn't looking at the match. Yeah, no, I've seen him, Aubameyang knocked down a couple of times. But yeah, nothing vast to talk about.
Has Mitrovic had any chances yet? So either of you seen that?
Nothing. I'm not sure he's even been all that involved. It's mostly been Arsenal again, probing forwards.
Yeah, I guess it's a bit hard.
There's a bit of an
Willian has been subbed off.
Wait, finally, get him off. That 8% ownership is killing me.
His security's got his clean sheet and his that's pretty good haul.
If we had 6 midfielder slots, I kid you not, I would be considering him because I mean, if he's just involved in those set pieces, you up your chances, don't you? And if he's getting into the box, even for accidental assists, 8 million's a nice price point, which is something I've mentioned a couple of times. I think I'm with Joe of your Scoutcast that while of course you don't want to just pick values, you want to pick players. Being able to move around easily is really useful, especially early on. I think the skills in FPL in the first few weeks, sure, if you can nail your game week 1 team, of course you're in an amazing position. But if you can't, it's then about reacting to that, whether that's with a wild card or just transfers. And it's a lot easier to react if you've set yourself up to do basically anything in a couple of moves, right?
Yeah.
We look at people like Magnus Carlsen, who's got a lot of mentions this year, and deservedly so. He doesn't necessarily know more about football stats than the rest of us, but I suspect his professional talents are extremely, extremely good at planning, and then even better at reacting when his plans don't work. And that's effectively FPL, right?
And probably also, I think one of the key things for him, and some people that a lot of people suffer with, and probably me too, is reacting to bad situations as well. Is like such a big factor. Like when it goes wrong, the amount of times I'm going to raise transfer this player out, I'm definitely getting rid of him. Whereas often, if you just take a day or even a sleep, just wait till the next morning, everything seems a little bit rosy. But you're right. Like game week 1 is. Like without trying to put too many excuses before the points to come in, it is so difficult to nail because you're literally going on last year, a bit of pre-season, and then you're just hoping that everybody starts off in the same form as last year, and it's never like that. So it's so hard to predict.
Definitely got to avoid the knee jerk. I mean, that's what's always been my worst sin. Is I kind of got not normally this early, but usually it's usually when I'm quite close to the mini league or something. I'm kind of one thing's gone against me. I'll do some ridiculous move. And
Aubameyang is through.
Come on, Aubameyang. Come on.
He's gone wide. Oh, it's cleared off the line. He tried to go round the keeper, probably one touch too many. Rodak did well, to be fair. He waited a very long time till he went down, forced Aubameyang wide, and then it's cleared off the line.
What's your? Well. So you've captained Aubameyang, same as me. Right now, as it stands, he's on a 7-pointer, so 14 points. You're happy enough with that?
Yeah, I'll take it. I mean, if Salah scores a hat trick, of course I made the wrong decision in hindsight, but my captain scored a goal. There's some time for him to score another. That's all I need. I just need a few returns every week from my captain. I think a bit like we were saying, it's very easy to look at your captains in hindsight. I think you make the best decision you can up front. And if you consistently apply that, you were just saying there about knee-jerking. If I now go, oh, my thinking on Aubameyang was wrong, therefore I must change my thinking next time, I'm probably likely to make a bad decision again. If I chose...
Well, I say same thing. We don't know what Salah's going to do yet, but similar thing happened last year. I captained Salah. I think he was at home. He was at home to Norwich, of course.
Norwich, yeah, I did the exact same thing as you.
Yeah, and Sterling, I thought, well, Sterling's a great option. I want him on my team, but he's away, so I'm going to go for Salah. And Sterling ended up scoring a hat-trick. But after that game week, Salah kept on doing it. From what I remember, I think he was pretty good at the start of the season last year, as he mostly is. And Sterling kind of went off the boil a bit. It was like 6 pointers here or there, 7 pointers. Didn't really score that much. So I think, yeah, you shouldn't base too much off of one game week. I tend to try and get through game week 2 without any transfer, which I did last year. Although you say about Nija, I didn't make a transfer in game week 2 last year, but in game week 3, I think I'd made I'd made 3 transfers for a 4-point hit by like Monday or Tuesday. So I bought in Pookie, De Bruyne, and Mason Mount, which actually were 3 really good transfers.
Those sound really good, to be fair.
Yeah, no, they were really good, but it's not very often I make Monday or Tuesday transfers. Chris, are you someone that might make an early transfer? Not necessarily this week, but during the week. Do you make early transfers sometimes?
Yeah, not really, unless I'm going away or something. Yeah, because if I do that, the only reason I do early is if I know a player is like to rise. It's, when you get those situations, not usually this early on, where if it goes up 0.1 or 0.2, you're suddenly priced out of it and it's more expensive. So that's the only reason why I typically do it, because I always find myself, if I make an early transfer, that's when I'll take a transfer hit on deadline day. So I go, oh god, yeah, something else has come up. There's another hole that's come up. I've got to kind of plug. I become more, not quite so much, but I become much more relaxed taking hits. Not that my rank is maybe something you should emulate, but I had an okay season. I was in the top 50k. I was around the top 10k for a while. I'm much more relaxed about hits this last year, and I have been in the past. I always used to do everything I possibly could to avoid taking a hit, and obviously it's 4 points lost. But I don't think it's anything to be afraid of.
The best seasons I've ever had were taking minimal hits. There was one season where I tried to take no hits all season.
Yeah.
And I think that was my second best season. And then last year, which was my best so far, I think I took none until lockdown. And then obviously in the restart, circumstances kind of changed. There was things were happening so quickly. It felt reasonable to maybe jump from a big hitter to a big hitter with a -4. But I think even if your game week 1 team isn't set up all that well, taking hits, while it doesn't mean you're doing badly at all, especially a planned hit, often it's a sign that you maybe haven't planned things out as well as you could. And I'm not saying right. I'm not saying if you're taking hits, of course, it doesn't mean you're doing things wrong. I think there's probably been people in the past who have won the whole thing who may have taken a hit every single week.
Yeah.
But realistically, like you said, not knee jerking, remaining calm. If you've made your decision, you've made it for a good reason. If you back your reasoning, then you shouldn't be taking too many hits as you go. And then when you
I'm trying to limit them I'm not necessarily trying to limit them, but I feel like I'm really trying to give myself a good reason before I take one, because I think sometimes it can be, we talked about on the Scoutcast before, it can be moreish hits, right? You start taking one, then you take another one. And actually my best season, my top 5k finish, I took like 96 points worth of hits, but what that shouldn't be, that means hits get you a high rank. I happened to maybe nail some of them that year, where other years I don't. But I think one of my issues that I'm really trying to fix this year is I'm sometimes get too set on having to take a player out without actually thinking about whether it's the best transfer to make that week. Yeah. And so often doing nothing is the right decision. Obviously, if Aubameyang had been blanking, it's a bit of an extreme example, because most rational people are not going to get Aubameyang out versus West Ham, even if he blanked today. But that'd be a thing that some people would do, and you got to look at it and just say it's West Ham at home. Right? It's one game. You shouldn't be basing decisions on that. And you like a lot of my players like that. Calvert-Lewin has to really be, unless I see something drastically wrong with him, he has to be like a 3 or 4 game week, and then you review it. Same with Pulisic. If Pulisic gets benched against Brighton, I know now there's a chance that happens. That can't be what I base my decision on. But I am open to hits. Like last year, it kind of all just fell into place, where I had to get De Bruyne. He was too good of a price. Mount was looking good for Chelsea. And obviously we know what Pookie did. It just, at that price, it just seemed like too good. And Pookie didn't last, and neither did Mason Mount. You start getting into like 6 or 7 weeks of the season, I stopped really looking at price rises and falls that much, because I feel like too many people like base their decisions around it. So I do look at them early doors, especially like in the next game week or two, because you just don't want to lose that first 0.1. Sometimes I feel like once you lose the first 0.1, it's all fine after that. But that first one it can hurt, right? Because at the end of the day, you've almost lost 0.5 million, even though it's not.
There's that very funny moment where tonight Willian might rise to 8.1. Not saying he will, but you'd fancy there's a chance right now. And there's that funny moment because we've spent all summer looking at 0.0s and 0.5s, and suddenly there's a 0.6 or a 0.4 or a 0.1.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh goodness, I can no longer make that move because it's 0.1 is like 0.5. And then, like you're saying, all across the box from Bellerin hasn't come to anything in the end. But I think that's really the only opportunity Bellerin has created. But right from the byline, flashed it across the area.
I was going to say, Maitland-Niles is playing left wing back, right? So how are kind of him, Tierney, and Bellerin looking in attack? Because Tierney's obviously 5.5, but Bellerin and Maitland-Niles both 5.
It's gone close again. I think that was Pepe, similar position. Aubameyang coming more central again. Pepe again gets in down the byline, flashes it across, and I think it's been cleared before Alba could get a touch on it. To answer your question, I haven't seen the stats, but if I had to look, I would guess it would look like they've not been that involved. But then the old stats versus eye test. When Aubameyang comes inside, Maitland-Niles goes forward. Often he'll stay wide, and then Tierney might come in under the on the underlap. Bellerin, he's not really the Bellerin of old. That's probably the first time I've seen him create something. Maybe better when Willian is off, because I guess maybe now while Pepe properly comes inside, Bellerin is that outlet down that wing. I think it might depend on setup. I think a lot of people fancied Tierney, didn't they, if he plays left wing back, and maybe that's the one because that allows Aubameyang to come inside, Tierney to bomb on around the outside, and then combine with whoever's coming in narrow at the far post.
Yeah, I do think there is something in Tierney at some point. I think he did quite well from an assist potential in the Scottish League, and obviously it is different in the Premier League, but he's playing for Arsenal. I do think there's something in him and owning him at some point. I'm just not sure it's right now. But I said that at the start, and they're about to get a clean sheet potentially, so it's looking quite good for anyone that went for him. And at 5.5, there's other defenders that you could potentially jump off. I was just looking there at transfers in already. So Willian has had only 8,465. I actually thought it might be more than that at this point. So I expect that would go up. Aubameyang.
Nketiah coming on.
Oh, Lacazette.
Sorry to interrupt, Andy. Just Nketiah for Lacazette.
How long's left now?
5 minutes, 6 minutes plus, or 4 minutes even. Sorry, plus any added time.
Oh, so he's not getting much of a run out then for anyone that took a punt. But there's always next game. Willian 8,465 and Aubameyang on 3,000. Interestingly, and obviously I don't know how invested these people are in their teams, but Fernandes is already brought in by higher than Willian, and De Bruyne has been brought in by 10,000 people already, yet to even kick a ball this season. So, yeah, there we go. I
guess those are moves people had. Those are probably moves people had planned as part of their strategy. It's just.
But what happens when Salah gets injured later or something? That just seems. If you planned it, fair enough. But that seems crazy.
It's a bit. Why do it this early? Yeah, it's not. Well,
yeah.
Tebow is saying in the chat, Spurs to be relegated. I have a feeling that might be an Arsenal fan there. I mean, it's not Mourinho's third season yet, so I don't know. I don't know that. I'm just having a look. Bellerin is toilet. For Fulham. Sorry, I thought you were talking about Hector Bellerin. Talking about bonus points. Let's have a look. Just see if there's any questions here now. Sancho won't get in the best front three. Sancho will be interesting. Sancho can't, Man United obviously talked about a lot. And I know, let's say, let me give you a price, because it's annoying when people say, would you buy them without a price? But let's say Sancho is the same as Fernandes, 10.5. I don't know if he would come in that high. I think he'd probably come in, I don't know, maybe Rashford's
I reckon
price.
Closer to Rashford, I reckon, because he hasn't got penalties, set pieces, has he?
Okay, let's say he's 9.5 then, same as Rashford. Is he someone that would interest you straight away, or would you have to wait and see how he integrates first?
I'd have to know. I mean, I'd have to see him play. You wouldn't see him settle in. I mean, he didn't set the world alight for England. Not that anybody did. I mean, it was pretty tepid couple of games. And I know he's incredible in where he's playing in the Bundes, but I don't know. He's one of those players. A lot of these players, you've really got to see them. I mean, we've all made the leap to Werner, but yeah, I don't know. I think Sancho, you'd need to see him playing where he's playing, getting up to the speed of it, and I don't know. It's just a different league. It's very hard. These players coming in, I'd be very hesitant to jump on any bandwagons like that. There's so many good options at United as well. Why would you? you've got kind of Greenwood, and it depends who's going to get displaced as well. You've got Greenwood, Martial, Rashford, Fernandes. Why would you want another United asset straight away?
Yeah, I think that's sometimes the problem. Yeah, they might score goals, but it's how many. That's why talisman is so talked about so much, because like if Southampton scored today, is Ings going to be involved? He probably is going to be involved. Whereas I guess Man United got Sanchez, not quite the same. I think if he's the same price as Rashford, then he's maybe just a wait and see. What do you think, Seb? Would there be any interest there for you?
I think I'd definitely be tempted, but I think Chris makes a really good point about you want to see how it falls out. There's maybe, we know people would buy him massively, a bit like Bruno, and if he hits the ground running, fair enough. I think obviously everyone watched a lot of Bundesliga at the end of last season. I don't think people quite realize Sancho wasn't great in that. I don't think people realize quite how good Sancho is, though. His stats are, and I'm not saying he'll progress to match this player, but his stats are Messi level at that age group. He is ridiculous. Of course, that might be specifically in Dortmund style, or specifically because he's become maybe their talisman. Although, obviously Haaland now, but before Haaland, Michael Royce used to play in the false nine, and pretty much everything went through him. So he potentially wasn't the focal point of the team, but maybe, he ended up on the end of either everything, or he was the one before everything. He was involved in a lot of their goals. So I'd be very, very tempted early on. But yes, I think it's worth, if he was joining, say, Tottenham, you could maybe immediately go, yes, I'll have him, because he arguably becomes their best player immediately, and probably everything goes through him. But like you said, if I've got Martial or I've got Bruno, I'm not going to swap one of them to Sancho, and I'm probably not going to add him just until I know. Maybe it only takes 2 weeks. But if you've already got scoring assets for Man United, why risk changing that?
Yeah, exactly. I'll come back to that and I've just seen that Ollie Watkins has scored in the friendly against Man United. So there you go, Mitrovic owners. If you need to transfer someone to a different 6 million, maybe Ollie Watkins is your man. But just remember, that is a friendly. It is still
Luke Shaw's clean sheet gone there, Andy.
Yeah. I mean, Villa's a tough game, So I think Crystal Palace at home would be a little bit easier. But yeah, I kind of agree. I think the really interesting player for Man United for me this year is Martial, because he's moved to a forward. He's a little bit cheaper than Rashford. Obviously, we know all the details. He's not, less points from clean sheets, goals, and more bonus. It would have still put him on less points last year, but he did score 17, whereas more than half the season he was playing in such a weak team. No Pogba, no Fernandes. And so if they get Sancho as well, the main man playing number 9, he just seems happy in that team right now. And he is a player that sometimes you see sulking, even for France. Looks very happy playing there now. He's in really good form. And his numbers were pretty good again last year. He's someone that I maybe have overlooked a little bit, how I could get him into my team. I've got options, obviously. Werner to Martial is one. But if Sancho came in, you're right, I think. Because he's not going to be the main man, you could probably wait a sec. And I think he'd probably come in a little bit more than Martial. I think Martial might just benefit even more. I think all those players around him just all points to him. So I think, I'm kind of waiting and seeing who comes out best there.
That's a good shout, actually. Sancho created so many chances coming in from the right, cutting down the byline or cutting inside and putting it across the face of goal. If you watch any highlights of Sancho and Royce combining, they basically just laid in tap-ins for each other every single time. If that's going to be Martial, you're right. You could choose Martial instead.
Yeah, I mean, he did score some proper decent goals last year, but he is also very much like an in the box tap in, right position, right time. We saw that I think against Sheffield United. I think the first goal was just a tap in at the near post. Like that's just not necessarily near post, but around the 6-yard area. That's kind of where he likes to play at times.
I saw something interesting on Man United the other day. A piece of analysis that suggested their XGI last season was at its best before Bruno arrived, with Pogba, Martial, and Rashford all fit. And then obviously Pogba and Rashford were injured, and it dropped off massively, as we all saw. Then Bruno arrived, and their XGI didn't actually pick up again properly until Rashford and Pogba were back. Of course, their actual output, Bruno was putting away penalties and he was scoring, quite low XG shots. But you could almost argue that even in a fantasy context, Bruno's going to get points if he's on all set pieces. It's not actually him that makes the difference to the team. It's Pogba, Rashford, and then if Sancho comes in, maybe you base it on where Pogba's playing, where Rashford's playing, is Greenwood dropping out, rather than necessarily, what Bruno Fernandes is doing. Oh, full-time in Arsenal, by the way, I believe.
Yeah, I forgot there was a game going on there. Go on, Chris. Round up the game for us.
We lost the. We didn't miss much, I don't think. I kept bouncing back. It was it settled down a bit.
So what do you think about
14 points
Arsenal?
for Aubameyang, I guess.
Yeah, he's not. I'll have a quick look at the bonus now. But I'm assuming he's not going to get anything. That yellow card would have killed him, and obviously he's going to have to do a little bit more now, being a midfielder. So right now, as it stands, Gabriel still 37 points. Williams on 35. So there could be a little bit of change there. I don't know how many times Gabriel will have been dispossessed. Probably not that often. And Lacazette's on 29. Actually, Holding, interestingly enough, who's got no attacking returns at all, is only 1 point behind Lacazette. But Lacazette scored the first goal, didn't he? So he's going to get winning goal bonus added on at the end. So he should keep the one, but it'd be interesting to see. Chris,
we didn't talk about it earlier, but there was a Messi-like dribble by Holding at one point where he quite surprised. I presume it was from this match and not from seasons gone by, but it was incredible. He took about 3 players, chipping it up. It was very good. But yeah, but I don't think it didn't do anything. But okay, that's great. Good for Willian owners and Gab the goat. Has started out strongly then.
Good for Willian owners. I love that. It's like at the start of this, I hadn't even thought about him, and now we're like,
there's
Willian
8%
owners.
of them.
You're the guys. You're the guys.
There's about 400,000 Willian owners out there. They're all very happy right now. Going to have an afternoon beer, I would imagine. But yeah, I mean that's what I was saying about £5 million defender price points. I mean, look, I'm not looking to get an Arsenal players in that I don't already own anytime soon. Their fixtures are awful. Like Liverpool, Sheffield United, Man City, Leicester, Man United to come after West Ham. It is really bad. There's not many worse fixture runs out there right now. But that's what I like about that 5 million spot. I feel like that 5 million defender spot, there's a lot of potential options that maybe aren't there right now, but could be in the future. And Gabriel could be one. Maybe Salah at some point. I don't know. But yeah, it's interesting. Any of you jumping on Arsenal players right now? I assume not.
I'll be sticking for now, as I am.
And you, Chris?
Yeah, no, I mean, I'll definitely add Willian to a watch list, but I did that after minute 4. But but I will do because I was a soft spot for him. But yeah, I'm not going to be. Yeah, I think right now I've got plenty of other. I'm sure I'll have plenty of other fires to put out by the deadline comes around. To be honest, so
I'm fully expecting to see Willian in the scout picks next week.
Yeah, Willian.
It's West Ham
I
at
don't
home.
need scout picks. Thank goodness. I will stress that.
To be fair, imagine again. We talked about how hindsight is dangerous, but imagine if you'd gone Willian over Aubameyang. Even if you didn't captain, maybe you captain Salah. You have more points without the captain and 4 million to play with.
What, in all seriousness, right? Outside of Willian, was there anything that you saw from Arsenal today that maybe you weren't expecting? Any players that, fixtures aside, that you'd be keeping an eye on now, or about the same as you thought?
I'd be interested in looking at the stats afterwards. Obviously, we've talked a fair bit through it. So maybe, Lacazette was involved, but he either feels too expensive or too valuable of a slot, I think the defend. If you were going to go somewhere, maybe the defenders, but you either want cheap and nailed on or some proper attacking output, and I think we might be relying on Tierney for that.
Yeah, definitely. I think that 5.5 is just going to, it's going to take a bit of time to adjust to having to pay that for an Arsenal defender, I think. I see a few people asking in the chat how long we're streaming for, so we're about to end for this one.
4 hours, and you've not been on. You've only been on like 3 hours.
I am done now. I tell you now, I'm going to eat. I'm going out tonight, and I'm not doing anything else till tomorrow. But yeah, we're about to finish up. Basically, the idea of this is to cover like a few games at once. But obviously, with the schedule right now, there's only one game on at a time, so we'll be doing. It should be one game a week, although we may do one on Monday for the Chelsea game. So if you haven't already subscribed, make sure you hit that button so you know if that when that goes live. And obviously, if any of you watched them last year, Gianni was doing all the hosting, and hopefully he'll be back soon to carry that on. So yeah, if you've enjoyed it, hit the like button. If you want to see more of these, make sure you subscribe as well. We are looking to do a few more throughout the season. Obviously, when maybe if we get back to people being at the grounds and stuff, and there's more games on at once, we'll be able to cover them. But I thought that was really good. Seb, thanks very much for joining us. Your second Fantasy Football Scout appearance now. Hope you enjoyed it.
Oh, thank you so very much for having me. Do I get a ball if I ever manage to make another one?
You'll definitely be back. You'll have to ask Chris. Chris will sort you out with something.
Well, no, thank you for having me, and thank you for hosting us for what was it, probably close to 2 hours, right? You've kept us going wonderfully.
I'm so tired. I'm so done. I'm sure. To be fair, I was going to say I'm hiding it well, but I am not. You can't. I should say these two can't see me in the Zoom call because of the way I have it set up. But I look proper knackered. Chris, thanks for joining me. I mean, you had literally no choice, but I appreciate you coming on. Anyway.
No, it was great. You did a great job, and yeah, thanks for doing this for the first one. As you said, Andy, we will be back. Maybe do Monday. We'll certainly be one a week. Hopefully, at some point soon, there'll be more than one game at a time because I think that works well. But it's been fun. It's been really interesting to chat. the issues, and we now get forward to see all our great best laid plans falling apart over the rest of the weekend. And next week, Seb will definitely have Willian in his team. I know it.
It's already in, mate. Aubameyang's gone. Aubameyang's gone.
Speed transfer. Thanks for hosting, mate.
Yeah, no worries. I should just say as well, obviously, apart from doing these every week as well, there's plenty more video content to come throughout next week. Starting on Monday, there'll be Transfer Watch, which I'll be doing. We'll have the Scoutcast back, captaincy picks, and all that stuff throughout the season as well. So make sure you subscribe. And if you want to check out all the stats and stuff that we've been talking about and kind of touched on, there's a link to the members area in the description below. Chris, has the price gone up yet?
The price will go up when I get 5 minutes to do it.
Okay, so it's still...
I think because... we might leave it up for an hour or two, but at some point today we will be going to our regular price. But yeah, thanks to everybody who has subscribed so far and supported, because it's been brilliant. The traffic on the site this morning, the number of people engaged, it's just incredible. We're kind of, the team are totally blown away by it, actually. So if you're one of those people that's been engaged or supporting, and if you just come to the site, we really do appreciate it, and supporting the video as well. Yeah, a lot of work goes into this, but we do appreciate it. Without you guys, it's not anything. So we really appreciate all the support.
Just to say, I've been a member of Fantasy Football Scout for a fair few years, I think. And if anyone from work is watching, don't join. But everyone else, do join. It's really, really worth it.
And I must say, Seb has not been asked or paid to say that at all. Just want to reiterate that.
We talk about stats a lot during this. And, obviously there's goals imminent tables and all that is mentioned a lot. I think even if you don't make your decisions based on it, it's really useful that one time you've got to decide between two players and you just know that they've had this many shots in the box or something. I make a lot of my decisions based on stats, but even if you don't, why wouldn't you want more information?
Exactly. And like I said, it's £17.50 right now. That will go up in the next few hours once Chris gets around to it. So if you are interested, link in the description below. I'm going now. I can't be doing any more talking. Seb, Chris, thanks very much. Thanks for watching us. We'll be back soon for another video or stream. See you later.